It says he represents the Tanaka clan. You don't look like Tanaka.
Shidoshi Tanaka, trend.
What's the whole up?
He says Senzo Tanaka is his Shidoshi.
What's the difference if Bruce Springsteen is a Shidoshi?
Mr. Han, suddenly I like to leave your island. It is not possible. Bullshit, Mr. Handman.
I want you to exit this guy off the premises, and I want you to exit him off his feet and use his head to open the fucking door.
Don't ever do nothing like this again. Come back up here.
You don't have to worry about that, Sheriff.
I'd kind of like to see this town die peaceful.
Fucking honey, Joker. You know, we know you was a punk then, but you're being a punk now. Yeah, detective, come on. Now you couldn't find a fucking Jew in Rockaway.
How does one become a janitor?
Welcome, everybody. This is the second installment of Radio Karate. I'm your host, Fillmore, a.k.a. Fillmore Fingers, a.k.a. Jim Fix. And this, I didn't do the a.k.a., but this is used to be called a bunch of things, this show. But it's after COVID-19, a lot of our plans to do stuff got scuttled because a lot of films that were going to be released now have changed their date. What was the ones? Weren't there two in April that we were going to review? Bloodshot was one, which when it came out streaming, and it was such a piece of shit. Anyway, we'll throw that into the next review. But wasn't it Black Widow was coming out in May?
Yeah, it was Black Widow. James Bond was supposed to be out. The new
Yes.
James Bond movie. Mulan.
And wasn't there a DC film as well in April? Or am I getting that one screwed up?
Birds of Prey came out.
Yes, and that one's available on Podbean, everybody, and our YouTube channel. I believe it is just called Radio Karate. I'm gonna try to plug that one again and maybe get some of our old shows on there. We'll see what kind of waters that stirs. Although I don't think it matters. The subject for today, for those of you who are interested, is films and movies we have not seen, did not see even in the slightest. When the qualification was a minute. If you went through half a season or a couple episodes by accident, or you were trying to screw some broad and she said, "Oh, we got to watch this," that disqualifies you. So if you even saw one episode of Sex and the City, you can't use that one. But the criteria is we have to say we didn't watch it and we were adamantly opposed to watching it and still never, watch these things. So why don't we start with Derek first, or Daryl, depending on how you like to be referred to. So you can pick a movie or film that you saw from whatever era, and tell us what it was, and we'll see if it's on our list and cross it out.
I might not have too much crossover on the TV side, because I remember I didn't want to get anything that I might have said before or something that other people might have. So most of my stuff is recent from what the so-called golden age of television that we're currently experiencing. And first up, Better Call Saul. I watched every season of the show it spun off from. It was a far superior show. But to me, having Saul have his own show was like when they gave Flo from Alice her own show, or Florence got to run that, the Jeffersons got to run a hotel. It's like, Flo had her own show.
Are you kidding me?
2 episodes.
No, she did.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember it.
How did I miss this? Well, okay, wait a minute. I saw Alice in syndication mostly, so maybe Flo didn't last long enough to make syndication. So
yeah, it didn't last long at all. But that's how Saul feels to me. He's a Flo, a Florence, Sandra from 227. He's Joni Loves Chachi.
Archie Bunker's Place.
Yeah, all of that type of stuff. He's glorious.
Yes. And I don't believe Flo never found her way back to Mel's Diner either, did she?
Because they hated Flo. The Alice and the actress who played Alice and the actress who played Flo despised one another. So
really,
giving her own show was an out. And when that show flopped, the chick who played Alice was like, "Oh, that hoe's not coming back to this diner." So,
that's when you get payback from Vic Tayback. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I heard a story that remember on Three's Company, the Ropers spun off.
Yeah.
And what Mr. Roper? What was his name? What was that?
Norman Fell.
Norman Fell.
Norman Fell. That's right. So the story I heard was Norman Fell kind of wanted a guarantee or wanted to be able to come back. Mm-hmm. And they sort of said, yeah, don't worry about it. We're sure it's going to be a hit. But, if you need to come back, we'll figure it out. But I guess they didn't put it in writing. And so the Ropers started out and they had pretty good ratings. But then something happened. They moved the show, put it on a night up against like the Incredible Hulk or something like that. And the ratings took a dive. And in the meantime, on Three's Company, that's when they brought in Don Knotts. And then he was popular. And then when they tried to come back, they were like, "Hey, no way, Jose. It's a wrap."
Well, the truth was and I read the Chris Mann book, which was really an amazing read, even if you want to just read about the business in general. Basically, they told the rope, Audra Lindley and Norman Fell, if you guys last more than a season, then you can't return. But if anything under a season, you will let you come back. And so they lasted a season and a half, so that was off the table. And of course, Don Knotts just so brilliant in that, so it was going to be tough to get rid of him. Okay, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, please.
Wasn't Jeffrey Tambor on that? On the Ropers?
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. I think that was the first time I had seen him.
He he guested twice on the Three's Company, which brilliantly both times. But the second time as the Doctor was just incredible. They think is nuts. I still love that one. So okay, I'll go next, and I'm going to go way back into the depths of time and say Empire Records in the 90s, which was around the same time like Reality Bites was getting and that's on my list too, but I'll put them together. They were starting to get early 90s really cutesy, sort of the Friends version of a movie onto the big screen, and music was huge. And I think the soundtrack sold more copies than the movie sold tickets. And it was just meant to be like this sort of emo, tapping into trying to be a breakfast club for the latest generation of kids, and it looked like shit. I like the soundtrack a lot, but I never bought into that crap. And I loved Liv Tyler. I had a huge fucking crush on her. But no, not going to see it. Refuse. I knew it was going to be shit. Yeah, Wayne.
Yeah, I actually worked in a record store at that time. So I went to see it because of that. But it's exactly what you think it is. Nothing great. I'd never seen Reality Bites. That's the other one that those kind of go hand in hand.
Yep.
High Fidelity, I did see. That's a good one.
Well,
for record store kind of.
Yeah.
That was the same time period, for people working in record stores. But Empire Records, you can take it or leave it.
Well, I left it high and dry.
Yeah.
They actually just released a TV show based on Empire Records on Hulu. They came out started this year with Lisa Bodet's daughter in it.
Yeah, Ron Bennington says that he likes it, that he's been watching it and he likes it. So who knows? And he said he didn't think he was going to like it because he liked the movie.
Carrie, what's first on your list that you want to choose, or are you going at random?
Yeah, and I was doing, I just concentrated on my list. I concentrated on TV series.
Okay.
And I guess probably the biggest one is from the 80s. I separated mine out by decades.
Same.
So the 80s, I never saw one episode of Alf ever.
Me neither. Yeah, me neither. Never.
I mean, it was a pop culture icon. He ate cats or something, and I don't know. I couldn't get into it. I had no desire to see it then, and from what I understand, I don't think it's aged very well either.
I already told a story about the guy who played the dad, which was a true story. He he was, classically trained actor. He did Shakespeare and stuff, and all of a sudden he's getting shit on weekly by this puppet, right? And like this puppet is getting the better of him. So he got drunk one night, or he got coked up or drunk or something, and he beat the shit out of the Alf doll on the set. And he went nuts. And this doll would have cost like all kinds of money. It was Bernie Brillstein put it together. He was at the time Jim Henson was his biggest client, right? The Muppets, all the Muppet shit. And it was a big bone of contention between him and Jim Henson, and he was saying, look, the Muppets are cute and sweet and funny, and Alf is like Don Rickles. There's no comparison. So Jim Henson was a little worried that because Alf was a hit. But eventually that guy who played the dad started doing, you could see pictures of him in the Inquirer doing crack in New York with the homeless guy.
Doing crack. He wasn't just doing crack with the homeless guys. He was having unprotected sex with the homeless guys he was doing crack with.
Yeah. Apparently, I didn't see the sex pictures. Carrie.
Yeah, is the dad still alive?
I think he died not too long ago, but I can't say for sure.
Oh no, so no Alf reunion, damn it.
No, Wayne.
That was Alf was always my go-to thing when anybody, like on the old place we used to go to, if somebody said, oh, I got some good news. I'm like, what? They're putting Alf back on the air? And I've never seen the show. It was always my go-to joke at work or anything. If somebody's like, hey, did you hear the good news? I'm like, what, is Alf coming back? People just look at me like, what are you, an idiot? But it's the most retarded thing you can come up with to be excited about. So I think it's funny, But I've never seen it. My sister loved it. My sister had an Alf doll that she had with a seatbelt on in her car.
It's almost as funny. It's almost as funny, but not quite, as your Facebook alter ego Arthur Lee and his list of his list of likes.
His movies. Yeah, Bud. Yeah, his movie list.
His movie list was, what was it like? But not Billy Jack. What was it? Well,
I know it's Air Bud's one of them.
Air
We
Bud.
thought of like the most mundane movies that you could think of. Air Bud was like his favorite movie.
Punky Brewster or something like that.
Yeah, Punky Brewster's on the list for TV. Yeah, like every bad show. Well, that was the thing. Like when Punky Brewster was on the air, me and a friend of mine started to try to get a rumor going at school that she had a glass eye, and I used to say, "Oh yeah, watch it. If you watch the show, you can see she has a glass eye." And we just wanted to see if we could get a rumor going, but no, it never picked up.
Never picked up steam.
No.
What about you, Wayne? What's going to be your first pick?
Well, I'm going to go with the movie first, and I know people love this, but it's like I don't want anything to do with Top Gun. Never seen it. Don't want to see the new one. Don't care about it. It just looks really stupid to me. Anything I've ever seen, like in a commercial or any little like ads for it being aired on TV, it just looks like just ridiculousness, and so I never saw it.
Well, I was trying to think. So hold on, we're going all the way around. Derek, what about you? What's your next choice?
Next up is this show. It's on Amazon Prime. It's another one of those prestige shows that we're all supposed to watch to prove that we are discerning about our TV. It's called Catastrophe.
Okay.
I don't know what it's about. I know it keeps showing up when I go into my Fire Stick. It pops up there in the little Amazon section, but I'm never going to watch it. I refuse to watch it. I'm pissed that it keeps showing up when I'm trying to get to my Netflix account on my Fire Stick. It stars a dickhead guy, an unfunny hack comedian, Rob Delaney, who's a total absolute cunt on Twitter.
Wow.
And he sucks. He looks like God drank a fifth of some alcoholic beverage and then decided to try to remake John Hamm from memory. He's just an asshole. So fuck him and fuck his show.
Never heard of it.
I thankfully I don't get such notifications, but I understand the frustration when that happens. Okay, I'm going to go with a TV show for the next one. Hold on. Okay, I'm going to go back to the 80s, and guys, I'm really sorry, but fuck 21 Jump Street.
I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
I don't care about the movies. I'm talking about the TV show. At the time, I just remember thinking this looks like it's geared towards teenage girls, and I think it was really because Johnny Depp, right?
Yeah.
And that was automatically I tapped out. There's not even a debate. But it was huge. I remember it was sort of like almost a cultish hit, more than Joni Loves Chachi. And I didn't see the point in watching it.
So you missed the awesome acting of Richard Grieco?
Richard Grieco, yep. I didn't get to see him in a film again until I think Night at the Roxbury. And by that point, I thought, Jesus, was this guy, shouldn't he be dead by a coke overdose at this point? But no, he survived. He's like AIDS. He just won't go away. Carrie, what about you?
Yeah, I was going to say about 21 Jump Street. I actually did watch it. I thought it was pretty good. Plus, God, I used to think Holly Robinson was cute back then too, and but it was so unbelievable. I mean, they were all like 19 or 20, and they were these seasoned undercover detectives. It's like, come on.
They were Knox.
Yeah. But okay, so the next and I just did all sitcoms, but I'll jump decades.
Okay.
The next one I had was Friends. I've never watched an episode of Friends.
Really?
You took mine. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean I remember, like you said, it was it was mega popular.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was fascinated with Courtney Cox. At least the guys were. And so I mean I knew who the people in the cast were, but I never saw an episode. I mean, I think it was on once, maybe when I walked past the TV, and I thought Lisa Kudrow was hot, and that's about the all that I've taken from Friends.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it was Jennifer Aniston because of her hairdos was huge, and then people thought she was the it girl at that point, and she was the one getting movies and like unwatchable movies and stuff. But I had a girlfriend that adored that show so much she bought what was that name of that band that sang this, the Rembrandts. She bought the Rembrandt CD, and that's when I said to myself, I don't know if this is worth it, but she was such a sweetheart. I had to put up with it, but I never saw the show. I had to listen to the music, unfortunately. Yeah, go ahead, Wayne.
Yeah, I think I told this on one time when we did one of these shows that the reason I never watched it, I never wanted anything to do with it, is because we used to have a place called Suncoast Video, and that's where I used to buy all my, back then it was VHS.
Yep.
And so I remember being in there one time, and they were showing Friends episodes, so they must have been on VHS at that point. And there was one episode that they had running on the screen, and they all broke out into sing and reach out and touch someone, like the phone company commercial.
Sure.
And I was like, the hell kind of retarded show is this? And then I found out it was Friends. And I was like, I want nothing to do with this show. And it's like, and I'm telling you, like, I know people are going to hate this, but I don't think any of those girls are hot. I think, what's her name? Courtney Cox reminds me of a guy. So I don't like anything to do with her. Even since the Bruce Springsteen video, she looked like a little boy to me.
Yeah.
And then the other ones look like they crawled out of the water like Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, because they have that ratty looking hair.
Wow.
And then the guys just look like douchebags, and I never wanted anything to do. I've never watched a whole episode. Never wanted anything. No friends of mine.
What an indictment. Well,
awful.
Well, I don't know. I didn't like it originally, and I would only put up with it because of my girlfriend at the time. But my wife loves that show, and so we bought the DVDs. And when she wants to watch it, I've come to appreciate the sort of synergy they all had, and the writing was fairly easy. It's sitcom writing. Once you know the characters, it's a cinch to write gay jokes for this one, and fat jokes for this one or whatever. But they did have they worked really well together. If you're into sitcoms, they clearly had something going, and it something like that doesn't get that popular unless it's good. But then again, Two Broke Girls would last 5 seasons, and that was a steaming pile of shit. So maybe I'm wrong.
God, I tried to watch that show. I tried to watch it because I thought, what was her name? The brunette, Kat. What?
Which one?
Derek, didn't we I know we talked about this before. But yeah, what was her name? It's Kat something, right?
You're talking about the characters' names?
Yeah. On
Kat
on,
Dennings.
Kat
Kat
Dennings.
Dennings. Yeah.
Yeah, on Two Broke Girls. Yeah,
With
so
the tits.
I remember sitting down and going, this is going to be great. I got to watch this, if nothing else for her. And I sat down, I turned it off after like 5 minutes. I couldn't do it.
Wayne.
Yeah, know how bad I saw Two Broke Girls. I saw it on an airplane. This is before they had the videos on the back of seats.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing an episode of it on a plane and saying, "What a piece of shit this is." And I was like, if you're on a plane or whatever, I don't know if they get you lightheaded, but sometimes you'll see a movie on a plane that you say, "Oh, that wasn't that bad," and then you see it later and it's like, "Oh, that wasn't that good."
What was I thinking?
Like I saw the second Hangover movie on the plane. I said, "Oh, it was pretty funny," and then when I watched it again later, it's like, "Nah, it's not that good." So I think they get you lightheaded on a plane, and Two Broke Girls didn't even do it for me on a plane.
Wow.
Maybe
Have like some? Is that the one that they had some like an Asian guy that was like the that worked in the diner and he was kind of a moron? Is that the same show?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's
like
what I
a
saw.
Stereotype.
Then,
Spoke with a weird accent.
Yeah.
That was written by what's her face, right? The friend
Whitney
of
Cummings.
the Stearns.
Yeah.
She's not funny either.
No, she's
they
not.
let
And her
unfunny-
show. Yeah. Her show tanked. That was the funny thing. She had a sitcom on her own just called Whitney, and that tanked. But she had the co-creator credit for Two Broke Girls, and she must have made a boatload because that went for. But it shows you the state of sitcoms because TV, because that show, as horrible as it was, had ratings, and I couldn't believe it because the level of writing was so awful that I couldn't justify watching it for any. Even if I was a teenager, I would have said, I don't care how hot she is. This is stupid. This is really unfunny and stupid and just low rent. Carrie.
How long did Whitney Cummings' show last? I was calling her Courtney Cummings. They're all interchangeable.
Yeah.
Well, if you put Courtney Cox and if you mix up Courtney Cox and Whitney Cummings, you got a porn star name. I think one season. I think it was about one season, maybe season and a half. And they let it go.
I had a friend that was dating the actor that played Whitney's husband. I think she was married in that show.
Yeah, okay.
That wasn't on my list because I believe I actually think I watched one episode of that show and it was not very funny. But, but this friend of mine was dating that guy and I remember she was, like completely enamored and oh my God, he's a big time Hollywood star and
right.
And it's just amazing. That business is so cutthroat because I mean, heck, I can't remember who that guy was now. And I mean, I don't know, maybe he's gone on to bigger and better things, but you would think you would know who he was. But
I think he might have, but he was actually considered the sort of bright light of the show, way like much better than Whitney. But traditionally, like stand-ups getting sitcoms, they're the weakest link in their own show. Look at Seinfeld. Seinfeld was always number 4 out of 4.
True. And he that particular actor, I remember he played the part. He was like the straight man. So yeah, he probably didn't catch a lot of shrapnel from the wreck of that show.
His name was Chris D'Elia.
Yes, I think he does stand up as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Really?
Is it D apostrophe?
Yeah. I think it's D'Elia. Chris D'Elia.
D'Elia. That's him.
Right.
Yeah, there's an apostrophe there.
Yeah.
And he's gotten a lot of work since that Hacks TV show got canceled.
Good for him.
Good for him, exactly. Who's next? I've lost. Now all of a sudden it's. I think it's Wayne. Is it your turn?
Yeah.
Or Carrie? Did you get your? Did you get your shot, Carrie?
Did Friends.
Oh, Friends. That's it.
Yeah,
that's
Friends.
right. It took so we did eviscerated Friends so long. I lost the order. Wayne.
So next one is Miami Vice. Never seen one episode of it.
Wow.
I didn't like the colors back. That was back in my big time punk rock days, where in the 80s all I wore was black and white.
Yeah.
And that just looked the pink coats and people started dressing like that, and it just was very gay to me. And they were wearing like no socks. They'd wear like no socks. So every picture I've seen of them, they're just like the show looks stupid, and it just was like just nothing I wanted anything to do with, especially
Really?
at that time in the 80s. Yeah.
Yeah. So
My
it was just
junior
weird.
high graduation, I was dressed. No socks, white shoes.
Really?
Aqua pants with a white blazer with the
Oh man.
sleeves
Boy,
rolled up.
yeah.
When you walked into the room, did Glenn Fry start blaring out?
In my head,
I hated the music. I hated the music. I hate everything about it. I hated every soundtrack. It was Phil Collins and everybody that's on my do not listen to list. Anything with Glenn Fry, you know.
Well, if you were into punk, there's no way you could have watched that show. But it was
No.
Michael Mann, and Michael Mann was responsible for Thief, and you know that soundtrack's all Tangerine Dream.
Right.
And that's great. And I love Michael Mann. I liked Miami Vice the first couple seasons.
They had Harold Faltermeyer, who worked with, you know, everybody, Pet Shop Boys, Giorgio Moroder.
Yep.
He did music for that, but it was just like washed out 80s, everything bad about the 80s. And
that show was,
as far as I'm concerned.
That show was a line of coke. That was the personification.
Right.
Like, Carrie, you wanted to say?
Yeah, you know, that whole thing when Derek was talking about the shoes with no socks, I remember trying to pull that off. And every time I did, whether it was like back then where it was like kind of the white mesh topped shoes, no matter what kind of shoe it was, I just remember my feet would hurt. And then the shoes would smell so bad afterwards. I'm like, how do these guys do it? And I remember thinking, how do they do it?
The wardrobe department's got 1,000 pairs of shoes for Don Johnson. Wayne.
Well, the thing was bad is where I lived, you know, if I dressed up like a new romantic, which I did, you know, I wore the pirate clothes and shit. And then people like, oh, you dress gay. And I'm like, I dress gay. You guys like dress like, I don't even know what you want to call it. Those pastel colors and
they look like,
I don't know.
They look like Spumoni.
Yeah, I mean, I look like someone. I look like I don't know, but whatever. But don't try to tell me that I'm looking gay, even though I was wearing makeup and everything. You know, believe it or not, back then. But then you guys are wearing like those kind of clothes that look like stuff that women should be wearing. You know.
I think you guys were in like a Paul Lynde neck and neck, and you tied at the gay market. Well, I mean, you're talking Prince Charming Adamant, like, you know, dress up pirate or what?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
With the ruffles and everything?
No, not that bad, no. More like I went from, I had my 3 different things. I did the pirate look for a while. Then I did, you know, like kind of like an end of the world guy. And, and then I ended up, by the end, it was by the end, it was like cyberpunk, where I had like circuits that lit up and shit on my clothes and all kinds of stuff like that. So
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
That was, but yeah, no, I had a leather jacket that had all, I wired it all up so one of the arms lit up. It was kind of like a Borg looking thing.
Wow.
And with all circuits, and it had like, you know, like when those laser pens came out, I had those on the arm of it and stuff like that. So
which
was like the
which we know now can blind people, but at a concert,
yeah.
Why are there so many people handicapped at a Depeche Mode concert? Well,
you get yelled at by you get yelled at by Paul Stanley.
Yeah, you know, people. Let's go with Derek. What do you got next?
This is the one show I had to put on that's not a current show, but I hate it so much, even though I've never watched an episode of it. Girls.
Okay. Oh, wonderful. Okay.
I hate it. I've never seen it, but Lena Dunham is just this portly, obnoxious asshole who couldn't possibly create a TV show that is worth watching at all. So never will, never shall. I'd shoot myself in the face first.
Do you guys figure that it was definitely one of those you know, every now and every generation has this critical darling that's acclaimed, whether it be music or film or TV, and they just, without even seeing it, they immediately cream in their pants, or they're given some directive. This is the new era. You must watch this. This is the latest such and such, quote unquote. Wayne.
Yeah, I always thought of that about Alanis Morissette. Because, well, you were in Canada, so you probably remember when she did like pop music.
Yeah, now is the time.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden everybody loved her, and I thought she sucked. But it was just it just blew my mind.
I read an interview with Flea and Dave Navarro. Actually, they were talking about the making of "You Ought to Know," right? Because that was the big lead single, right? And
Yeah.
I actually liked the production of it, sort of. And then when I heard what they had to say, they said, "Look, they gave us a demo and they said, we want you to, can you guys play on this?" Because they were going to guest on it. And he said, when you heard the original demo, it was probably the gayest music they'd ever heard. So they just added their own stuff, and I don't believe it got credit because the song was already written. And so, but there are parts that, I think they get a performing royalty, but they said what you hear on that thing is nothing like what it was before. And if it was, so imagine if that had been recorded the way it was, she wouldn't have been a household name at all, voice or no voice. So it's amazing how that can go. Yeah, you wanted to say, Wayne?
Well, that's like something along the lines of that I meant to say when we were talking about Alf was, did you ever see the picture of Kurt Cobain with the Alf shirt?
Yeah.
That's like always made me laugh, but
yeah,
like they showed him wearing an Alf shirt, but actually he was the type that would have worn an Alf shirt as a goof, like when he was in his 20s, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that picture.
I'm gonna go for my next one. Unless Derek, you wanted to talk a little more about girls.
Nah, the less we talk about girls, the better.
Okay. Fair enough.
It's going to give you nightmares as you talk about it.
I'm going to go for myself for our next one. I'm going to pick one that a Kiwi friend of mine recommended, Flight of the Conchords. And I was told it was some kind of genius, brilliant comedy. And I don't know if this one qualifies because he started to show a clip of it at a bar we were at. And either we were not in the mood or I wasn't getting it. But 30 seconds in, I said, this isn't funny. And and afterwards he kept pushing it on me like people would push, some Monty Python thing or whatever, and which I was fed up with. But I did watch so like that one can't qualify. And whatever it was, I hate to say it, but I also had this guy had awful taste in movies and TV shows. So I figured if he loves it, it must be shit. So I just refused to watch it, even though I've heard lots of people talk about it. I think it's a regional thing, and I just figured I wouldn't get it because Wayne.
Yeah, I actually like it. Like
Mm-hmm.
I own the box set of them. I've shown them to my girlfriend. She likes them. It's a lot of. I think you have to get used to the humor. Mm-hmm. It's a different kind of style of humor, but the thing that I liked about it is a lot of music references and parody of music stuff. It's smart. Like the way they parody the stuff, it's not just retarded, Mm-hmm. And, it's actually. I like, but I know what you mean about when somebody tells you, "Oh, this is so funny, and you sit there with a blank look on your face, staring at it. It's like, I don't get it,
Yeah.
But the other thing is when someone says, "Oh, you're gonna love this," like
don't ever say that.
Yeah, Ferris Bueller, like, "Oh, you're gonna love Ferris Bueller. It's just like you." And I watched it, and I was like, "Yeah, I don't know, whatever."
Right. Carrie, what have you got next?
Oh, okay. Well, I was just gonna piggyback on Wayne's comments.
Sure.
I loved. I did like Flight of the Conchords. I watched every episode, and I thought it was funny, and I thought it was pretty smart. But yeah. So Wayne, did you watch John from Cincinnati?
No, what's that?
It was weird. And for some reason, I wound up buying the season, what do you call it? Like the box set for John from Cincinnati. But it was one of those HBO shows right around that same time. But
I never heard of it.
Yeah, it was this weird like surfer community. It was like this small community in California where everybody was surfing and. Then this guy shows up, and I guess he was supposed to be Jesus on a surfboard. I don't know. It was really, and then like I said at the time, I'd watch it like every week, and me and another buddy of mine would sit and talk about it, and then I wind up buying the box set. And I don't think I've ever watched one episode since. But
maybe I'll have to look for it and see. I never heard of it.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, it was weird, but okay. Next up on my list again, I'll go back to the 80s. I never watched one episode of Family Matters.
Which one was Family Matters?
That's the one with Urkel.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They should have just called the show Urkel because that's what we called it. That was a huge hit. Did anybody remember what network was that on?
It was ABC. and it was a spin-off of Perfect Strangers.
You're kidding.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
the mom ran the elevator at the newspaper that Balky's cousin worked at on Perfect Strangers. As you can tell, I watched Perfect Strangers.
I never seen that.
No, I did too. I did too.
That was also,
I'm not ashamed
that
of
was
that.
also on my list, believe it or not. I've never seen either one of those shows.
Me neither.
Perfect Strangers. Okay, so you never seen either. All right, I've never seen. I've seen actually Family Matters once or twice, so I couldn't count that one. And Perfect Strangers, I loved it actually.
Well, and it's my understanding that like Urkel was kind of this ancillary character that like just kind of popped up on the scene like 2 or 3 seasons into it, and the next thing you know, like the dad is kind of forced off the show or something.
Yeah, he was John Amos.
Yeah, he was introduced like probably around 2 seasons or so in. He was the neighbor who would come in, say some wise crack, everybody would laugh, and he'd leave. Then over time, he basically just took over the show. And the dad didn't leave because Urkel and the dad became like the best friends nonsense. Best friends with a 50-year-old policeman. It seemed odd. The mom got the boot.
What?
And one of the children got the boot. So the woman who the show was actually created for, she ended up getting the boot.
Oh, wow.
The youngest daughter, they sent her up to her room one episode, and the next thing you know, she's making porn.
Right. Yeah, I heard about her story, and but didn't they bring on like you know how they do this for all dying sitcoms? They brought on another like cute kid at the end, right?
Yeah, there's some little kid who sang and danced who they adopted. Like the mom's sister adopted. It was a whole lot of people living in that one house. So yeah, they brought on some little kid who sang and danced who was supposed to be cute.
Ladies and gentlemen, sorry to interrupt, but we have a special guest. Would you like to make yourself known, special guest?
Hey, it's not the second. What the heck's going on here, guys?
Welcome, Sean, a.k.a. Rakdar. Good to have you back, brother.
Hey, good to be here. Hey, I thought you said it was on Saturday, though, at 5.
Did I say Saturday?
Yes, you did.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I'm so sorry. I meant, I don't know. Well, technically I'm correct. It is Saturday over here, but I should I'm really sorry. I thought I mentioned Friday, but fuck, my bad. My apologies. But I'm glad you caught it all the same. We were just doing our round robin, and now you're going to be right after Wayne when he gets his in. But Derek, Carrie, you said Family Matters?
Yes.
Okay, Wayne.
Yeah.
Wayne, we're on yours.
Okay, mine is a movie, and it's one that Wiggy loves, and it's Pretty Woman, and it's like another one that it's like that came out. I'm not a big Julia Roberts fan, and I think I've only seen maybe like 2 Richard Gere movies. I think I saw Mothman Chronicles, which they screwed that up because it was actually a good book. And the other one was American Gigolo, that I could take it or leave or whatever. But I wanted nothing to do with Pretty Woman. It just, the whole premise of it was stupid. And everybody that says that they like it is usually people that I don't trust their taste on anything. Like mostly Wiggy. Like Wiggy just saying how great it is just makes me not want to. And for people that don't know, Wiggy is Howard Stern.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we all met. But
yeah.
But yeah, just a movie I don't want anything to do with.
Well, by the way, you could not escape Pretty Woman that year. That was anybody, and guys were saying how they thought she was. I never found her attractive. Never.
Me neither.
I don't know. I still don't get the appeal. I just don't.
She looks like Eric Roberts.
Yeah. And she has a fish face, like a fish mouth or something. I don't know.
They took my thumb, Charlie. They took my thumb.
Charlie.
There's a Dice. When I saw Dice do that special of his where he did the 5 impressions, like going on a Boy Scout trip, Pacino, De Niro, and Eric Roberts. No one had done an Eric Roberts at that point. It was so fucking brilliant and so unique. Like Eric Roberts the minute someone's doing an impression, but nobody's really doing it. Well, then why don't we throw Sean into the deep end? Welcome, sir. Yeah. Welcome back after a long hiatus. It's good to have you back.
So
glad
I can make it.
Yeah, TV show and or movie. It's your choice. So pick whatever you like, and let's arrows away.
Well, see, this is the thing. When I was prepping for the show, I was looking at lists of movies and TV shows that people like, and I realized I have really, really low standards, and I'll watch anything.
So anything. So you were having a hard time coming up with a list, is what you're saying?
Well, no, I do have a list, but it's
Okay.
kind of out there. I guess. Let's see. We'll start with movies, and I'll go with a series that will probably catch a little bit of flack from people, but the Godfather series.
Oh wow!
All I've ever heard. Yep. See, all I've ever heard my whole life is how great the Godfather series is. It's this great. It's great. It's great. It's great. I'm like, it's been built up so much that I'm just at the point where I'll fuck it. I don't want to watch it. I just don't give a care.
So you've never seen The Godfathers?
Nope.
Okay. Wow.
Wow.
Like even accidentally, you never backed into like a video store like corner and said, "Oh, gee, I may as well watch, Godfather 2. I've got 4 hours to kill."
I've seen them on different platforms to watch, and I just flick right by them. I'm like, yeah, fuck it. I got better things to do. I watch other crappy movies.
Sean, you're nothing to me now. You're not a son, you're not a brother. You're not a poster. You're not a talking head. Well, fair enough. I mean, there's people out there that have never seen Goodfellas. I mean, there's classic films. I've never seen 8.5, and it's not by design. I just never got around to it. I never saw No Country for Old Men, and people fucking rave about just about any movie of that. So Daryl, aka Derek, what have you got next?
A Star is Born.
Which one?
Yeah,
any of
doesn't matter.
It's like
it's been remade like 752 fucking times. But I guess the newest one, because I guess it was up for an Oscar and there was a song from it that was everywhere. But
the one with Lady Gaga.
Yeah, I didn't watch the one with Barbara Streisand and Chris Christopherson. Damn sure not going to watch one with Lady Gaga and that hair
Bradley Cooper
hair mannequin. So
Judy Garland.
Yeah, it's like it's been done. Can we stop? Do we really need another one? Like, who's going to be next? Like Ariana Grande and whatever member of what is Korean boy band group. One of those guys will be in it.
It'll probably be some gender fluid movie, and a star, a bunch of stars are born, or something like that. I saw it because Dice was in it and Dave Chappelle was in it, and I heard good things. I think I like Lady Gaga as a singer, not necessarily all of her songs, but Bradley Cooper does a decent job with whatever he's given to play, and I thought it was all right, but I just didn't think that it was necessary to remake.
It's one of those why. Like, what reason was it for that movie to be remade yet again?
Yeah, well, they
I
found
thought
a
it was
reason.
fine. It was fine for what it was. I liked it, I guess. And,
I'm going to take over my next one unless someone has something to. I'm going to take over and give my next one. But anybody got any objection? We want to continue on A Star Is Born and eviscerate it?
Nah, didn't really hate it.
Okay, I'm really sorry, guys. I know I'm going to get taken to task for this, but Breaking Bad, and I'll tell you why. There was a girl that I really could not stand. She died a few years ago. Feel sorry for her family, but she was a total cunt. And she recommended this show she studied it like the Torah, and she would recite lines, and she would talk to people for like 45, 50 minutes in a bar, each person, about how awesome it was. And she had such horrible taste in almost anything, and she was like a fucking born again hippie. And I said, I refuse to watch this now. I just will not watch it. And even my wife said, why don't we try it? And then she heard the concept. She heard the concept, and she said, no, I'm not going to watch it. And I just said, no, I'm not watching this. And I never did.
So
I've never seen it either.
I love that show, but I would never sit in a bar and start trying to talk people into watching it. Like, what type of asshole is that?
A self-absorbed one that wanted to show exactly what she knew about, she probably knew who the gaffer's name was, and she memorized every aspect of it. Wayne.
Yeah, the premise of it, I remember seeing like the previews for it. around because I was watching Mad Men at the time, and I just didn't look like anything I cared about. And people rave over it, but even now when they talk about it, it just sounds like something I don't care about.
Yeah, the gist of that was the one thing. My wife is very adamant about this. If there's some premise like that, a morally reprehensible kind of thing to her, she's just not going to watch it. Now, the Breaking Bad. Yeah. So anyway, she's just walked in the room, so she's giving making sure my information is correct. So anyway,
grab a mic.
Exactly. She actually, you'd love her on the show. I think Carrie, you're next.
Okay. Since you guys are doing I'll switch up and do a movie. I was doing sitcoms exclusively, but I'll do two for the price of one because I didn't see either one. Roadhouse and Dirty Dancing.
So two Patrick Swayze's for one in the crowd, Ben.
Right,
Dirty
and
Dancing
it's not that I have anything against Patrick Swayze. He was fine in Red Dawn, but both of these movies were like huge, and I guess they were date movies, and I must not have been dating anyone during that time, or I got lucky and didn't get dragged to this. I did get dragged to, what was the other dancing movie? The one with Kevin Bacon.
Footloose.
Yeah, I got dragged to that, and that was like torturous. But I dodged a bullet with these other two. I'd never seen either one.
Wayne, you wanted to say?
Okay, these are really good ones you brought up. Footloose was like the soundtrack to me and a kid that I grew up with. We were like best friends, and I went the punk way, he went the fag way, like literally actually. And we'd ride around and he'd put that fucking record on just to piss me off because he knew every song on that album sucks for Footloose. And it's just like I never wanted to see that movie. The premise of it sounds stupid. Never wanted to see Roadhouse. And now this is like, it's kind of funny you said this because my girlfriend was away that weekend or something, and my mother's like, will you go see this movie with me, Dirty Dancing? So I thought it was a movie that was going to be like based in the 80s. And then so it's like the old days in the late 50s, I guess. I don't know. And everything about it is bad. Everything. The acting, everything is corny. The guy from Law and Order's on there, who I can't stand. He looked that old alcoholic or whatever. He's on it. And then, basically at the end of the movie, the guy, Patrick Swayze is dry humping his daughter right in front of him, and he thinks it's great. But the whole movie is a prude. It doesn't make sense, And they play like the synth music that they're all dancing to, but it's supposed to be like late 50s, I guess, and just a horrible movie. So those ones you brought up, that's a 3 for 3 for me. Horrible movies. Horrible.
So you got a 3 for. So we got Footloose. So you still haven't seen Roadhouse?
No.
That's a shit classic.
I love Roadhouse.
Really?
Me too. I can quote that verbatim. Give me a scene, I'll tell you.
Like, think about it. Patrick Swayze plays a specialized bouncer who gets
degree in
brought
philosophy.
in. Like he's so awesome as a bouncer that he's brought in specifically to bounce at some hillbilly bar below the Mason-Dixon line, and he does karate. It's awesome.
Is it so bad it's good?
Well, there's the one. I'll spoiler alert. I guess plug your ears if you don't want to hear it. But when the bad guy, the big culmination, one of the last fight scenes, the big tough guy, he goes, he's got Patrick Swayze from behind, and he says, and like he's got him in almost like a chokehold, and he goes, "I used to fuck guys like you in prison," and you're going, huh? One of the worst heavy lines in modern day history or any other history.
Wow.
And I think they actually in Beer League, they stole the line and had the old guy say it, and they kind of did the same thing. They go, "Wait, did Derek just say? Did so and so just say he used to fuck guys?"
Yeah,
And I mean that was just less funny because they addressed it. But the Jeff Healey as the soundtrack and John Doe from X as the bartender, it's amazing.
Really?
And Ben Gazzara, he plays the heavy, and he was famous for all those Cassavetes films.
Oh wow.
Sam Elliott being
Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott.
I
Really?
think Terry Funk was one of the bad guys, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
A wrestler?
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was 89, so Terry Funk still looked like he could beat the shit out of you.
Big time. Yeah. Yeah, and some of the best lines in history.
You know,
man.
now I'm interested because it sounds so bad that I think I'd like it.
Right. It ain't Streets of Fire, but it's almost, you know.
Streets of Fire. That's
or ladies and gentlemen, the Fabulous Stains. So we're going back to Sean, I think. I think we've gone Wayne, that was you, right?
Oh no, I just
that
jumped
was
on
me.
Carrie's bad movies.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, I have one that I didn't see it because I didn't like the title, and it just seemed like an Oprah kind of thing. But it was My Big Fat Greek Wedding. I didn't like the title of it. I don't want to see something fat like that. I don't even know what it means. I mean, maybe it's a funny movie, but it just seemed like an Oprah kind of thing that, you know. But just the title alone scared me off.
You mean was it Fat or Wedding that you decided?
Oh yeah, because any movie that's got the title of Wedding, you gotta figure it's going to start off with girls dancing in their underwear or something retarded, or you know, you're just like any kind of wedding thing like that turns me off. So it's probably Jennifer Aniston, and you know, it will start off with them dancing around in underwear, and it's like supposed to be cute and sexy, and it's neither, you know.
Or funny.
Yeah.
Carrie, you wanted to say?
Yeah, so they in Tempe, where Arizona State University is, like right off the main drag. I don't think it's there anymore, but they used to have a restaurant, and I wondered if you guys have heard of it. Maybe it's a chain. It was like My Big Fat Greek Restaurant.
Never heard of it.
No.
Okay, good. So that means maybe it wasn't a chain, but I always assumed it was because it was modeled sort of on that. I remember they had like pictures of the movie, and it was a Greek restaurant, and they had the flaming cheese and all that stuff. But yeah, yeah.
But did you guys see this movie? I mean, maybe it's great. I don't
No,
know.
I did.
I never saw it.
A guy I grew up with played. He had a bit part at the end of the film, and as a wedding photographer, because it was filmed in Toronto, and it looks it personally. But the thing was, I hated it because my sister had written a screenplay that was pretty much the nucleus of the idea was the same, but it was going to be way darker. And I told her that's exactly the tone I would have taken, but she was smart. The marketing on that film was incredible because it was literally in, small amount of theaters. And at the time there was no like rom-com films out. So it started building and building, and it made something like $200 million in the States for a $5 million budget. And Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson were producing it. So she's Greek. Rita Wilson's parents are Greek. And the chick Nia Vardalos, who it was based on, she was at Second City in Chicago, I think. So she has some improv training. She wrote it and didn't do anything of note since. And she's tried to mine it. There was a sequel. No one cared about it. And clearly she only had that thing to say. But it was like a sleeper hit. It was massively, and there's no way you could have predicted that. But if you just called it anything like Polish, there was a film called Polish Wedding, but if you called it, Bosnian Wedding, My Big Fat Bosnian Wedding, it would have made probably the same amount of money. Because if the formula was the same, you know what I mean?
What was it?
Tony and Tina's wedding, people must be pissed.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
They've had that shitty idea forever, and she just swooped right in.
Absolutely.
Oh, is that what it is? Is that what it is? It's like a stereotype wedding?
Yeah. I mean, Andrea Martin's in it. She's good, but like she's always good. But in this one, it's almost like that's her shtick to do like the ethnic shtick. So I don't think it was much of a stretch. Carrie.
Oh, I was gonna say, didn't it start off as a play or something? Or because it seems to me like I was in Vegas and they were doing, like one of the casinos was, oh hey, come see My Big Fat Greek Wedding or whatever. I don't know.
It might have, or it might have been, maybe it was, but either way, I don't remember the exact connection because it was so long ago, and I did see it and I thought, oh, for fuck's sake. This is what the minute someone finds out you're Greek, they're going to ask you if you saw that fucking movie, and then they're going to, what do you think of it? And I don't want to tell them. I want to fucking Wolverine their eyes out, because it was so.
You were a Turk.
Yeah, it's the same difference. And the idea that someone would have a fucking Greek flag painted on their garage, apparently that's a true story. I've never seen that in my life, and I grew up with some serious Greek Indoloons, and I've seen Portuguese with the Virgin Mary on their front, lawn.
We have that. Yeah.
Certain things instead of a garden gnome, you see this huge nativity scene all year long on the lawn. But I'm with you on that one, but I'm not gonna jump on it. Sean, what have you got next?
Let's see. I'm gonna go with another maybe controversial one. I got lots of those, it seems. This is because I can't take the actor seriously in anything, and especially as an action hero. So I've never bothered to watch the Bourne series. Just can't get into Matt Damon, really?
No, me neither.
You never saw any of them?
Never seen any.
Me either.
Really?
First one was good.
Yeah,
first one was excellent.
Okay.
Yeah,
then there was one with Jeremy Renner that was terrible.
Oh, yeah. Let's not even get started with him.
They tried to reboot it with the
the last one with Matt Damon I didn't like.
They changed the director and the style. Doug Liman did the first one, and he did the film Go with who was in that? I think Katie Holmes was in that one actually. And his style was more like straight ahead, and that was with Clive Owen. I loved that one. But the next one, they were doing a lot of shaky cam stuff for the footage, and I couldn't watch it. I got a headache watching it, so I didn't care for it. But to be honest, Sean, you grew up with the Richard Chamberlain one on TV, and you just couldn't get past. You needed a fruity leading man to be Jason Bourne.
That's it. Well, I have watched the Thornbirds.
What was that one he did? The Richard was it? It was the TV movie he did with Sharon Stone, Quartermain, something like that. Lost Treasure.
Alan
Richard.
Quartermain.
Oh, yeah.
Temple of Gold or something.
Because Richard Chamberlain was like the king of the TV movies or TV series back in the day. He was in everything.
I think that was an actual feature film.
Oh,
it was like an Indiana Jones cash-in.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Like Indiana Jones light, I suppose. I don't recall it exactly, but Derek, what have you got?
Okay, this one's a movie, and you guys probably liked it because I think most dudes like it, and that's how it was recommended to me, that it's a man's movie. You need to see it. It's the greatest man's movie in the world, full of testosterone, the whole nine. Fight Club.
Okay, and you didn't want to watch it, never saw it.
I don't like Palahniuk, whatever the hell that guy's name is, Chuck Palahniuk, guy who wrote it.
Yeah.
Like, because I didn't read if he wrote, was Fight Club even a book? I don't even know where the fuck that movie came from. But I didn't like anything else of his that I read. And I was like, it's like the guy's a raging douchebag, and anything that's made based on anything that he's written is pretty much douchebaggery in movie form. So, nah. So no Fight Club for me. Never saw it. Don't know anything about it other than, I guess, Brad Pitt punches some dudes in a basement somewhere based on the trailers that I saw for it.
And to this day, you never got curious after after the reviews and years later, and nope, still. Okay.
I haven't even read the Wikipedia page for it.
Wow. You got a block on that page. Wayne, you wanted to say something.
Yeah. When Fight Club first came out, that's why I was working in the record store, and we got like bars of soap and promotional shit for it, and I didn't want anything to do with it either. But the thing is the movie's not what you think it is.
Right.
That's what I liked about it. It's not. It sounds like a ridiculous, like horrible present, but like what you think was what it's going to be. I was really surprised when I watched it of what the movie really is.
Well, David Fincher had come out with Seven, of course. He'd been doing music videos for the longest time and got really that's how he got his start. And then he did The Game with Michael Douglas, which I really enjoyed. Actually, it was might have been a little bit the tone, the way he filmed it was brilliant. I thought so. I said I was all in for it no matter what, even though I wasn't a huge Brad Pitt fan, and I loved Fight Club. I absolutely loved it. Yeah. And it was more of a statement of it was almost like the 90s version of Clockwork Orange.
Yeah, it is.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And but I could see why people wouldn't want to see it too.
I didn't like the hard sell. So you just told me, hey, you should see this movie. It's pretty good. But the hard sell that people were giving me was just
the same.
It's so bad that I love David Fincher as a director. I had no clue that he directed Fight Club. Yeah.
Well, the same year Magnolia was getting a huge push, and I eventually saw that and realized, now this is shit. My initial thought was Magnolia is going to be shit, and I didn't like it. There were some performances in it that were good, but overall it was like the movie version of The Clash's Sandinista. There's a good movie in here somewhere.
There's good in Magnolia, and that was
Julianne Moore. Julianne Moore was great. She's always good. But yeah, there's just too fucking long. Okay. Fight Club. Okay. I think I'll go back to TV, and I think, okay. Yeah, I'll go. No, actually, you know what? I will go with, I'll go with the two and TV shows in the 90s. I was going to say, Star Trek Voyager. I would not watch. Because I hate to say it, I must be a misogynist, but I was never going to watch Kate Mulgrew in a fucking captain's chair. It's like to me, it was diminishing returns. I love the original Star Trek. Really enjoyed Next Generation. Dabbled in Deep Space Nine, and that one was kind of where they lost the plot for me. And so I thought the next one, and they said where they're going to go like feminist and finally they've started doing a hard sell, female protagonist, the lead and whatever. And that turned me off because it falls in line with the discussion we were having on Facebook, which was, what's with these films that are shoehorning a female protagonist and then promoting it as if, like, instead of just saying we got a new show and this is who the cast is, you make your own determination. It was like when Living Colour, the band, used to be called the Black Led Zeppelin, and they used to fucking hate it and they were right. Why do you have to mention the color in the review? Just say they sound like so and so, or just explain how they sound. But the same thing with this, like, the female, there's the first female captain, and I never bothered to see it. Carrie.
Yeah, I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but I don't understand, these franchises or these, movie franchises, TV franchises, what have you, that already have kind of strong female characters. I guess you couldn't really say that about Star Trek, but, so I guess this is going off on a little bit of a tangent, but like Alien. They had a female protagonist. You didn't need to oversell that. Same with Star Wars. I know we talked about that ad nauseum. You had Leia, you had all these other people in there, and it wasn't that big of a deal. And then you look at a franchise like Aliens with Ripley. The fact that she was a woman wasn't a big deal at all.
No, it was incidental.
Exactly. But then you just see it creeping into all of these, and it's like, why? Again, me, I'm going to go down the Dune rabbit hole a little bit, but they made a gender and race swap with Dr. Kynes, who was a kind of a tangential figure, not really that important, but the novels themselves and the movies, they already have built-in female people that are important to the story already in it. So it's like, the race thing is not that big of a deal because, heck, they're out in the desert and they're supposed to be kind of, for the most part, dark-skinned anyway. Yeah. So that's not a big deal. But the gender swap, it's like, sometimes is it the studios now or what? Who's making these decisions?
I'd like to know myself. That's a whole other discussion we could talk about. Like we could do a whole thing on political correctness ruining movies,
just for that.
or like people like relying too much on focus groups or having some kind of, I don't know, like a testing thing where they go, okay, we need this, we need to represent this, everybody needs to be represented, otherwise we're not getting the full. But you're actually not satisfying any demographic because you're pandering, and people don't like to be pandered to, I think, for the most part. There are built-in diehards for any franchise that will watch any Bond film, whatever. When it came out, there was a rumor coming out that the next Bond would not be Daniel Craig, it'd be a woman. The outcry was like fucking. They did it when it was toyed with that Idris Elba would be James Bond. There was not really much background cry at all, hue and cry, because he's such a great actor. No one said anything really, except purists who would say, "Well, he can't be black." Well, why not? Why can't he be? Yeah. At this day and age, he just needs to be British. So who cares if he's fucking transgender as long as he's doing the job? But when they start crowbarring the whole making gender swap, I don't know. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Carrie, you wanted to say?
Well, just again, rabbit hole. But you guys are probably I'm sure you've heard about the latest with Star Wars, and they're doubling down. Kathleen Kennedy doesn't seem to be going anywhere. And so, they're doubling down on this direction that they're going. That the Force is female. So it's going to.
I heard something totally different.
Was it? Hold on, Sean. Yeah, you wanted to say.
Oh, I'm sorry. Since I don't have video, I can't raise my hand. I mean,
no worries. No, it's fine. Because I got to remind myself. We were going. What were we going to call this film? Star Rags. Go ahead.
No, I was just, as far as the Kathleen Kennedy thing, a lot of the stuff I've heard recently is that it's actually Bob Iger and the other guy, I can't remember his name, that's supposed to be taking over Disney, have kind of tossed her out, and she has no control over anything other than this one series that she kind of backdoored into by mentioning it on social media. So they're trying to, seems like they're trying to go away from the pandering as far as Star Wars goes, which I hope they do.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope that's true, because the last thing I read was that she was the one that screwed up the Star Wars theme park stuff at Disney. She said, she's like, we don't want this for 50-year-old guys or whatever. It's going to be for future Star Wars, no old days Star Wars. And so they had the whole thing, designed into be like Tatooine. It was supposed to be Mos Eisley Spaceport. And then she came out and said, no, we're not doing that, and scrapped the whole idea. I just read this yesterday. And that's the reason why everybody goes to the park now, and they're disappointed, because it's all just, like the sequel, Kylo Ren and all that kind of crap. There's no Darth Vader, there's no droids, there's no, there's Chewbacca because he's in the new movies. But there's really, the whole thing really sucks. There's nothing there for kids. And then just a bar with overpriced drinks and a Millennium Falcon.
Derek.
Going back to the Voyager thing, I'm wondering if the show would have, because I have no real problems with Kate Mulgrew as an actress, but in that role, it's like she really didn't matter. She wasn't that I hated her as the captain. It's just like she was just there, which was the reason, one of the multiple reasons why I stopped watching Voyager, probably like midway through the first season. But she wasn't the first person cast to be the captain. Right. It was that French actress was hired first. And
really?
Genevieve Bujold. Ooh, there you go. I put
that
right out my ass. She did like one episode, one day. She filmed for a day. And then it was like the rigors of episodic television was just a bit too much for her, and she bolted. But I'm thinking, in the Star Wars universe, like just from TNG alone, you had the commander from the 2-part episode where Picard got turned into a Borg.
Yeah. Alice Krieg, I think.
Yeah, she was like a commander for whatever that ship was who was there. She was an asshole.
She was having it out with Riker. Yeah.
Yeah, but they could have taken her, slapped her into Voyager, and you'd at least had the connection. Instead of just trying to create something from whole cloth and go, here's our first female captain. She's tough as nails and all this type of shit that you had to create for her as the series went on, because in the first couple of episodes, the character was basically just a cipher. There was really nothing to Captain Janeway to actually let you get hooked and want to stick around and see what she did.
Carrie, you wanted to say something? I didn't pass over you. I just wanted to hear it. I wanted to know Derek was still there.
Oh, no, that's fine. I think Wayne had his hand up.
Yeah, I stuck with Voyager, and actually I watched it a second time, the whole series.
Yeah.
And the second time I liked it more. It was rough. It was really rough going at the beginning. I didn't care about the Kazon. I hated Kess. It was always weird. She had like this little pixie girl, but she talked like, she had a big deep voice or whatever. And I never got the character. And I knew that she was supposed to die after like 7 years, so I couldn't wait for her to die. And then, when they brought 7 and 9 in, it kind of souped up the show a bit. I liked Tom Paris. I liked him. Tuvok was fine, but after watching it a second time, I like it better than I did the first time around.
Might have to actually visit it. Not even revisit it. I'm actually give it the shot I never gave it in the first incarnation. Yeah. I think that was okay. So that was my thing. So Carrie, you're next, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. You know what? I never watched Home Improvement ever.
The Tim Allen Show, yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't an just for no reason, just Tim Allen. You hated ABC.
No, I think
he was ABC. I'm not 100%.
Well, I think it really goes to my watching habits when I was that age.
Yeah.
So this would have been what, like early 90s or late 80s?
I believe, it's roughly the same time as Seinfeld, because I remember Home Improvement was actually instrumental to Seinfeld finding an audience, because they tagged Seinfeld on the end of after Home Improvement, so that was the lead in, and then Seinfeld became the huge hit it was.
Right, so it was kind of a weird
NBC.
My viewing habits were just strange, because around that time I was in college. I hadn't started. I was in college. I was out doing a whole bunch of stuff, being in the fraternity, chasing girls, doing all this other kind of stuff. And I didn't have time to sit down and watch a lot of, and studying too. But I didn't have a whole lot of time for watching these primetime shows. So, I had a VHS, and the stuff that I would watch would be like, college basketball, and I would tape like Mr. Ed and stuff like that and watch them at night. So I've seen every episode of Mr. Ed, but I missed out on Family Matters, Friends, and Home Improvement. And truth be told, I've probably seen 2 episodes in my life of Seinfeld.
Wow. Yeah.
And I thought they were funny. I don't have an aversion to Seinfeld, but I just never got around to watching it.
Well, I think, the Tim Allen, first of all, Tim Allen was another one of those comics that just kind of got the sitcom and became massively huge. He's got a show recently. What's it called? God, it's going to kill me. It's actually getting decent ratings. Man About the House or something like that.
Last Man Standing.
Yeah.
And it's actually doing okay considering the viewing habits of people these days. You don't get, for the days of getting a 40 share are long gone. But I've seen a few episodes, and it's actually, for sitcoms, as far as they go, it's kind of a return to what sitcoms used to be. And it's decent. It's decent for what it is. And I'm not a Tim Allen fan. Also, the woman who plays the wife, I thought she was smoking hot. I forget her name. She was in Internal Affairs. She plays Andy Garcia's wife in that film, and she looks a bit like Gloria Estefan back then. But it was it's not a bad show. You could see why people would flock to it. But it's again one more of those things. I was gonna say, what's the other show? When it comes to me, I'll try to bring it back. Wayne, did you have another choice, movie or TV show?
Yeah, another movie I've never seen because it was so huge at the time was Titanic.
Wow.
I've never seen it. And I'm a big, I like everything James Cameron's done, but I've never seen it. And I mean, it's almost like kind of like the Godfather thing, where it was so big, like what we talked about earlier.
You could not escape it. Could not escape
yeah,
it.
and Leonardo DiCaprio, I mean, I knew him from Gilbert Grape as the retarded kid. So when all the girls were wearing shirts with, like all girls started wearing shirts with Titanic with him on it. And it's like I wanted to get a picture of him from Gilbert Grape and make a T-shirt out of it because I
want
was
to
just
go
so
up there, Gilbert.
Yeah, I was so
I want to go up there.
I could go at any time, but I want that's what actually that was the quote I wanted to have on it. It's like a picture of him that says I could go at any time, But that was at the time. I didn't want anything to do with the movie, and at this point, I'm almost ready to watch it because it's the only James Cameron movie I haven't seen, and and I like everything else he's done has been good, but yeah, just it was one of those things that it was so big that I didn't want anything to do with it at the time.
Carrie?
Yeah, I a couple things, like, man, DiCaprio, I do. I think he's probably one of the most talented actors of our generation. That guy, I can remember the first time I saw What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and I go, geez, how'd they get that retarded kid to act so well? I mean, I really bought it.
Yeah.
But the thing about Titanic, I think it's probably, of the work that I've seen him do, that's got to be one of the worst performances that he's done. Not so much his performance, but just what they gave him. I don't think Titanic has aged well at all.
Oh God, no! Certainly not as an Oscar winner. But that's a whole other show, like unworthy Oscar winners or films that got shafted. The writing was awful when I did see it. But I will tell you one funny story. My wife, when she moved to Asia, because she moved to Asia 3 years before I did, and Titanic was, she said, literally for a year, you could only see Titanic and a few other films sporadically, but they had it playing for a year in every theater. The Celine Dion was everywhere. She said if I'd met Celine Dion, I would have strangled her, because they loved the whole romance aspect of it. But she said to the point where coffee shops were being named Titanic, shoe stores were being named Titanic, and they would even take the fucking like movie poster and just plaster it over and then call it, like Titanic Restaurant. One of them was I'm not joking. I saw it. I passed by it actually one time, and it was a Titanic auto repair shop, and I thought you might want to think that one through.
Yeah.
But that's like having the John Denver flight school. But either way, it was massive. I saw it with a girlfriend, and she got angry with me because I fell asleep, and I only woke up when Leo DiCaprio was drowning in the whatever Paramount swimming pool, and and when he died, and I said, oh fuck it, thank God it's gonna be over, and there was another hour on top of it. Like I didn't realize
over 3 hours.
Yeah,
there was an intermission at the theater where I saw it, where they actually stopped the movie to give you an opportunity to go use the bathroom and get snacks so you wouldn't miss anything. And I'm like, what the hell am I missing? I'm sitting here for 2.5 hours just because I want to see this damn boat sink.
Right.
And you're foisting this awful romance on me that sucks.
Yeah, and if you want to see Kate Winslet's tits, just save yourself the trouble and the time and just watch Jude instead.
There's several ways you can see her titties. She's put them out in a bunch of better movies.
just offer her a script, I think. Carrie.
Oh, I was going to say you can go to MrSkin.com too, I'm sure.
Shameless plug.
But I was a real and still am interested in the Titanic and the sinking. I mean, I've read a bunch of books about it, and I thought, as far as like the movie itself and the sinking and Cameron's attention to detail, all of that stuff was great. Mm-hmm. It's the love story that just ruined the movie, that sank the movie, pun intended. But I remember a couple of years after Titanic, I think Cameron had he produced a documentary. It was like Return to the Titanic.
Yeah.
And he had like these experts on there, and Cameron is like berating these guys. I mean, these guys are like dedicated. They're academics and these researchers and engineers. and he's just like berating them. I turned it off like, halfway through because I'm like, who the hell are you? These guys have studied this stuff their whole life. You made a movie.
Well, he was always a bit of a megalomaniac asshole. If you saw the making of Aliens, he was, I mean, the way they put it, politically, they put it like, well, his attention to detail is extreme. I mean, it makes it sound like he was Hitler in the director's chair. But at the same time, they said 90%. The Titanic's ship was built 90% to scale, 90%, and that he sunk his own money into the fucking production at one point, and it cost $200 million to make, which today would probably be, I don't know, $400-500 million, in just equivalent. And that it was one of the last really, really big epics. And I only saw it because my girlfriend at the time wanted to see it, but she didn't speak to me for a week because I just fell asleep and she was crying, and she had to nudge me, like elbow me and stuff. But we were going to go, Sean, you're next, unless we want to continue on about Titanic. He did one thing that I'll never forget. When he got the Oscar, he got 2 Oscars, right? It got Best Picture and Best Director, I think.
Wow.
Right. And when he got it for Best Director is before. So he got Best Director and he goes, I'm the king of the world. And then when he goes up for Best Picture, he does this solemn thing. Like he goes, and I'd like everybody to let's observe a moment's silence for all the people who perished on board the Titanic. It makes it sound like his agent in between said, mention the dead, you asshole. Wayne.
Yeah, well, the other thing with Titanic was the Celine Dion factor, because I worked with this woman that played that song over and over again when that came out. And I had already known who Celine Dion was, because one of my trips to Montreal, when her first album came out, I ended up buying it for my girlfriend. I said, she'd like this kind of shit. And so, I was already done with Celine Dion and years before that. Yeah. But anyways, that was part of it. The other thing that I found really strange was that, like, young girls were like really started getting involved with like learning about Titanic, and there were all these books coming out. That was kind of ghoulish that they were like, that it was like a disaster, that it would be like the equivalent of like someone really being into the Hindenburg or something, And I never really got that. It was just kind of just sit back and like, yeah, really, you're into that, It's just. It was strange. It was like, I think that was kind of like the first thing for women with the what do they call it, murderoses or something, the ones that are into murder. They're like into these murder documentary. There's a name for it. They're into like murder documentaries and like serial killers. I forget what they call it. Yeah, but it's it was the beginning of that whole thing. And I remember there was one girl that just at work, that's all she talked about was Titanic and everything, and it's just another reason why it turned me off.
Carrie, and then Sean.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say I think the best Titanic movie is probably the one the British did in the 50s. A Night to Remember.
A Night to Remember is a brilliant film. There's another, and the band played on was another one.
Right.
Yeah.
The best Titanic movie is Poseidon Adventure.
My favorite was the Mad Magazine parody where they did, I forget what it was called, but, and of course in the original one, Shelley Winters dies. And the Ernest Borgnine character, he comes up from the water and what happened to, whatever the Shelley Winters character dies, she drowns. She said, well, she was telling me, she told me she was an Olympic swimmer and she's, she could hold her breath forever. And he said, well, then what happened to her? She was telling me all this underwater. She drowned. Sean, you got one up for one in the chamber?
Yes, but first I would like to say thank you for getting My Heart Will Go On stuck in my head.
Oh, no.
I hope you rot in hell for that one.
Want me to do a rendition of Don't Know What You Got Till It's Gone by Cinderella to get it out of your...
No, all you have to do is mention it. Now that's stuck in my head too. They're kind of dueling banjos in my brain right now. So,
squeal.
The one I'm gonna switch it up to a TV show, and one of the reasons I picked this one is because the ending was ruined for me. The second reason was it I heard it took so long in between seasons that it was ridiculous. And the third reason was it was just so overhyped that it, pretty much it never could live up to the hype. And that would be The Sopranos.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's big.
That's
You've never
surprised.
seen an episode.
Not one episode.
Oh, wow.
Really?
And still afterwards, subsequently, never had any desire to revisit and say, let's give it a shot.
None whatsoever. I've sat and watched, like I said, I watched the paint dry in my house during the quarantine, and I still have no desire to watch, The Sopranos. So
it's actually good.
Well, part of the problem, I did see the whole series, but I think they lost. David Chase claims he had the whole thing written out, and I never bought that for a minute. I think he had the first. I think he had the first season written, and that's it. Because most of those guys, you don't write things with a fucking 6-season arc in mind.
Yeah.
And so it's like The Matrix. They wrote the first one, had no idea it was going to make millions and hundreds of millions of dollars. But then by season 3, he was pretty much out of gas, I think, and then it was all about stunt casting. Who can we get to play Tony's cousin or uncle or nephew or whatever, and then kill him off? And there's bits and pieces, but near the end, especially the last season, I thought it was awful. Yeah.
As a whole, The Sopranos, for me, basically was just a lot of really good performances by actors.
Yeah.
In a show that if you didn't have those actors giving those performances, would be a shitty show.
I think so.
Because David Chase lies his ass off if he continues to say he had a plan for this show, because they would drop storylines from week to week that they were building to. They would just disappear. Like, he had no idea what the hell he was doing on that show.
Right.
But it was good acting that carried that show to the bitter end.
Wayne?
Yeah, The Sopranos wasn't so much noticeable. One of the problems when I was looking for a new show to watch after The Sopranos was didn't want to get shortchanged like the ending, which now I kind of don't care either way. But like when I started watching Mad Men, they said there's a definitive beginning and ending. There's a story arc that's already written, and so because I'll tell you what show burned me to make me not even want to watch TV anymore was Battlestar Galactica. Like the new Battlestar Galactica, because it started out really good, and that show sucked so bad by the end of it that I didn't want to watch TV anymore.
Well, Christ, I mean, it happens. Carrie, you were going to say?
Yeah.
Wayne, I thought you were going to say Dexter.
Wow.
No, I never watched Dexter, but I've heard the same thing, that like Battlestar Galactica, where they didn't know where it was going, and you can tell by the end.
Dexter had 4 amazing seasons, and then everything after that is pure garbage.
I stopped watching it.
That's the consensus. I saw the first few seasons and then sort of lost interest. It wasn't anything they did or did wrong, or it's just the way it happens. But I like the Michael. Is it Michael C. Hall? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, he loved him in 6 Feet Under. I watched that front to back, and that's probably the closest thing to seamless television ever, in my opinion. And I'll have to rewatch it. It's been years, but I loved it. From almost only the 3rd season was a slight dip, but that would be like going from a 10 to an 8 back up to a 9 or 10 near the end. So, Carrie, did you want to say something else?
Yeah, I was going to say that 6 Feet Under probably had the best ending of any series.
Yes, and a definitive ending.
Exactly.
Bullshit ambiguity.
Dexter, in my view, that was the worst ending of any TV series that I've ever seen. But wow. I think it all kind of started going downhill when, Michael C. Hall was married to the actress in real life who played his sister, and then there was a season. And then they split up. They broke up. I want to say I don't think it was the last season. I think it was the season before. And I remember thinking about it during that season. They had very, very, very few scenes where both of them were together. They'd be talking on the phone or whatever, but there were very few scenes where those two actors were in the same place.
But what was crazy about that is they're keeping these two actors apart, while in the show they're having the character that she was playing going to therapy, where her therapist was getting her to believe that she was in love sexually attracted to her adopted brother, who she was raised with, played by the guy she was married to. So they were going to have to end up bringing them back together sometime. Since you just decided you want her to fuck her brother. So wasting all this time with them on the phone and not having scenes seemed to be kind of counterproductive.
Man, that you talk about something going off the rails. What was that? I think that they said the best season. And at first I didn't agree with it, but looking back on it retrospectively, I think it's kind of true. The last really good season was the one with Lithgow. Was the villain.
That's season 4.
Right. Okay. And then after that, it was Tom Hanks' kid and Edward James Olmos and. Yeah. Were there 2 more seasons after that or just 1?
I think it
might have been
6.
3.
I think it's 7 seasons in total, if I'm not mistaken.
God, really?
3 seasons.
Sometimes
I do remember that story arc about her being sexually attracted to her brother. Yeah, it was just bizarre.
Yeah. I'm going to go with movies for my next pick, and I think you guys have heard my take on it already. But after I did, Tarek, I'm sorry. My apologies.
How dare you skip Daryl?
This is the Andrew Ridgeley solo album no one's paying attention to. Son of Albert. Sorry, go ahead. Son of Daryl. Go ahead.
This was quick. It's Schindler's List. I don't mind watching a movie that is depressing as hell, but if it's 3.5 hours, I'm not sitting through 3.5 hours of depression. Like, you edit that shit down to a smooth 90 minutes, and I'll be there. 3.5 hours is just a bit too much.
You're upset that a Holocaust-based movie was not truncated?
I like my Holocaust
slim and tight.
Yeah, I like a nice tight Holocaust.
Bite-sized increments.
87 minutes.
Well, that's bad. But listen, hold on for a second. There was one of my favorite authors. He kept writing the same book over and over again, but I loved it every time. Was Mordecai Richler, who wrote Duddy Kravitz, The Apprenticeship of Duddy Kravitz, famous Canadian author and famous Canadian anti-Semitic Jew. he was really hard on the Schindler's List because of certain historical inaccuracies. For example, there's one scene where the Jews are thrown into what you assume is a gas chamber, but then suddenly water comes out and that's it, like showers, and they're screaming and stuff. And he said, like, now you're allowing for Holocaust deniers to say, look, right there in the movie, Spielberg, stickler for detail, and look, it never happened. You know what I mean? And also the ending with Schindler crying down, I wish I could have sold my pin, I could have saved more Jews. And whereas there exists, if anybody wants to watch it, if you want to see the Schindler's List that was better, was Shoah. And I saw that in high school. And I would have been probably 7-8 years before, and we all had to sign like waivers, like parental consent forms to watch it, because the teacher didn't want to get in shit for showing something that might be a little too extreme for some people. And so Schindler's List was sort of like, okay, the Hollywood, maybe a little too sanitized, even though parts of it were decent. Yeah, Carrie?
I was going to say, I could just kind of imagine the pitch meeting for this. I'm sure someone said, hey, isn't there a way we can make this whole Holocaust thing seem a little more upbeat?
Like putting a clown in there, like Jacob the Liar.
Or like Jerry Lewis's movie.
Which hopefully comes out. I heard it's such a train wreck that it's...
is that ever going to be released?
I hope so. Because it's one of the... Harry Shearer used to talk about having seen a work print of it, so it didn't have any like music. It didn't have any, wasn't the finished product. But he said it was like watching what was the analogy? He said it was like as if you saw the Last Supper on one of those velvet Tijuana painting, those velvet Tijuana rugs or something, like dogs playing poker or something like that. And he just, but I'd love to be able to see it. Hopefully it will. The estate's in charge of it. Wayne, you wanted to say?
Yeah, I think like Schindler's List is like, how do you say it? I mean, I think it's a beautiful movie, the way it
Right.
was shot and everything.
Yeah.
The actually, I got one of those Nazi pins after seeing the movie, like that. Like you said, I could sell this pin. I ended up getting a hold of one of those party pins, a real one.
Yeah.
I found it up in an antique store up in New Hampshire. But
And sold
yeah,
it?
I love that movie. I have like it's a really strange, like it's a box set, but it's in like a glass case with the VHS, and
Yeah.
it has like everybody's numbers on it. Like I mean, that's
Wow.
how much I love that movie. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, I loved that when it came out. And it, that was, but yeah, it's worth watching. It's definitely worth watching if you haven't seen it.
There's a good bit of craft in it, but
Yeah.
and one of the the only time Schindler's List made me laugh was by proxy, because it's a Spielberg film and he's not really good with comedy, and this is no different. But Artie, when he was doing the Nick and Artie show, he was just riffing and he was saying how one time he said he just went into some character. He goes, sometimes I like to, at the moment of climax, I like to recite was it Ralph Fiennes or Ray Fiennes?
It's Ray Fiennes. Yeah.
Ray, yeah, I like to.
Yeah.
I like to
Yeah.
recite Ray Fiennes' dialogue from Schindler's List. He said, okay, make me a hinge.
Well, I brought that
Nick
up at
DiPaolo
work
just
before.
fucking lost it. Just
I brought that up at work before because there's like sometimes they like want numbers out of the people, and I actually did the job that that I'm in charge of the people doing the job now. So I always bring up the hinge factor. That's what I call it. It's like, yeah, you can get these guys to rush or whatever, but it's the hinge factor, and they look at me like, "What are you talking about?" It's like, "Well, you haven't seen Schindler's List."
Yeah.
And but yeah.
Oh God, he
Was
just
that the
shoehorned that
movie
into a
Ray
bit.
Fiennes won an Oscar for?
He didn't. I think. I don't think there were any. No, he would have won for like The English Patient or something.
I thought that might have been the movie that Kathleen Turner mangled his name at the award show when she announced him, called him Ralph Fiennes.
That's just like Cataline to do that. I'm gonna go with. I think you guys heard this when we were doing the first incarnation of this show. I boycotted Tarantino, and after Django, I refused to watch any of his fucking grocery lists being made into films. So, but even before that, I mean, I didn't watch From Dusk Till Dawn. I know it was based on the Elmore Leonard book, I think. If I'm not mistaken,
Jackie Brown.
Yeah, was that Elmore Leonard?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like his, and also I started getting. I made a mistake of watching Reservoir Dogs too often, and then seeing how many ripoffs that were involved in the film, and then Pulp. Yeah, you call it homage. Let's call it what it is, man. Same way Oasis like ripped off everything Slade ever did and the Beatles, but you like after the Django Unchained and the fucking like these asshole critics going, oh, look how brave it is, he's tossing the N-word around. I just thought it was gratuitous horseshit and dressed up as a revenge film, as opposed to the Dirty Harry films, which always seemed organic, and Tarantino was always this craft, and I thought it's over. I don't want to get too film school on it, but it was like too obvious. And I just didn't like his style anymore. He got rid of his editor, or she died, and he never replaced her. And these films got longer and longer. And so Hateful Eight, I didn't watch. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I refused to watch, even though everybody I know said it was good. It was definitely worth watching, and Oscars and shit. But I just won't. I'm just giving him my money. Sean?
That was good. It was like the most upbeat Tarantino movie, I think.
Yeah, it is.
His latest movie?
Yeah, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Once Upon a Time. Yeah, I liked it just for the nostalgia factor. I mean, I was, my dad had like, let's see, at one time, like, let me think. Yeah, 3 of his 4 sisters lived in L.A., and we used to drive out there. And I was, let's see, in '69, I was betraying my age. I was 6 years old, and I remember that kind of era of Los Angeles, like being there in the summers. Like when I was 6, 7, 8 years old, and And it was a pretty faithful reproduction. I thought it was pretty interesting.
Sean, you were going to say?
Well, I think that movie had a few flaws. One, if you're going to show Margot Robbie, let's not show her dirty freaking feet. It's gross.
That's that creepy
Gross.
foot fetish that Tarantino has.
Yeah, absolutely. You know he was jerking into that fucking scene.
Two, it was too goddamn long. You know, you could have cut about 45 minutes off that movie.
No,
and it
you
would have
can't.
been much better.
Right?
A
You know,
full
he
hour
gets final.
could have
He
been
gets
cut.
final. He gets final cut, dude. Like that's
Yeah,
in his
I know.
contract now. And I'm like, oh, anyway. Carrie.
Oh, I was going to say, I think you're right. His editor, I think she passed away.
Yeah.
And it was like every other Tarantino movie. There was way too much talking and exposition. Well, not really exposition, just people running their mouths. Like that whole speech by that little girl. I mean, she's a great little actress or actor, but I mean, did it need to go on as long as it did?
No.
Wayne?
Well, that was my problem with the Tarantino movies that everybody likes. Is I don't like Reservoir Dogs and I don't like Pulp Fiction. I thought they were way too talky, and everybody's like, "Oh, the dialogue's so great," and I'm like, "That's what I didn't like about it." Plus, there was like too much like shock thrown in just for the sake of shock, and so I didn't like any of his movies until Kill Bill. And when I heard about that there was like an anime segment in it, I said, okay, maybe now I'm a little bit interested.
Yeah.
And so and then I went back and I like Jackie Brown. I like Kill Bill parts 1 and 2. I like Inglourious Bastards. I didn't see Hateful Eight because Cowboys isn't my thing. You know, but everything else, that's definitely not my thing. But after like I think his movies got better, but I can see what you mean about editing. My parents couldn't watch it because I think it just was too long for them. But for me, like the scenes in LA, and I was never there, but it was enough because I think, Carrie, you're about my age. So it just reminded me of like when I was that age as a kid, the things I used to see around here, around Boston, you know, it looked so great. And then just like, there was like one scene of a car just driving onto the highway, and it was all old cars, and I'm like, how did they do that? You know?
Yeah.
It was brilliant, you know. So I really liked the movie. It's worth watching.
Yep, I agree.
I believe Carrie, you're next with your choices.
Okay, I'll go with a more modern show that I've never seen 1 second of. That's The Big Bang Theory.
Which, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is according to the research I did in the last couple months, is the highest grossing, I guess, highest money making sitcom of all time, as we see, because of syndication all over the world, especially in China where they love this shit. That show is through the roof, and I'm not talking about the spin-offs, just Big Bang Theory. Wayne.
Yeah, the best description I've ever heard of that show was somebody said that it's geek
nerd
blackface.
minstrel.
Yeah, geek blackface. Yeah, and it is. But I mean, I know the show always annoyed the hell out of me because I remember going, like when I go to these Comic Cons and stuff like that, I'd see these kind of assholes. So it's like, why do I want to watch them on TV when I know they're out there in real life? And it's like, I'm not like that. You know, the people that I associate with that like the stuff like that, they don't act like that, but I know they exist and I hate them. So why do I want to watch it on TV? It's another one of those shows where it's like, oh, those guys are just like you'll love that show. I'm like, I'm not like any of them. I don't, you know.
That's when you need a like a video shirt, like a screen, like an HD screen on your t-shirt, and you can queue up whatever like GIF you want. And I could see Wayne passing by these guys just showing Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Those guys are fags.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never minded Big Bang Theory. It's one of those like background noise shows.
Initially,
where it'll be on.
Yeah.
One thing it did do that's terrible though is it's directly responsible for Two Broke Girls being the success that it is because that's the show that was its lead in.
Oh,
Right.
okay. Thank God. I was hoping. Thank God. Please don't tell me you know that was a spin-off of Big Bang Theory.
Oh no,
You're the spin-off expert. You can tell us about Archie Bunker's Place all you like, but Sean, you wanted to say for it before Carrie, just real quick. Yeah, Sean.
No, that wasn't me.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Carrie.
Oh, I was going to say it's no wonder that it's big in China, because I guess they can tolerate the guy that's Indian or supposedly playing an Indian, but there aren't any African American people on there, so that means that it's going to go over big in China.
Are you suggesting that they're not big on, let's say, anything on the WB?
Yeah, from what I understand, and that going back to Star Wars, a rumor that I heard was part of the reason why they demoted, in a sense, John Boyega was because of the feedback they got from China. Like, it was like, we don't want to see any black people, especially messing with the leads or being romantically involved with the leads. So
how'd they take Rose Tico though? That's like a black guy with an Asian girl.
Well, that probably made it worse.
And then it evaporated because it's not even mentioned in the new movie.
Well,
that was an unintended consequence that is okay with me. Because the less of it, the better.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Gary. What about the success of Black Panther in China? How is it just okay? It's Marvel's. That's okay within that realm. It's fine.
I don't know. Maybe it's like you said. Maybe it's kind of like I wouldn't say a minstrel show, but maybe if it's all black, it's like okay. But if it's mixed up, yeah, exactly. It's like like old Hollywood, I guess. You'd have the race films, and then you'd have the mainstream films.
Okay. Well, geez. Okay. I was just trying to think, what would it be like? What would a film be that to maybe offend Chinese sensibilities? Like that one that was it Robert Mitchum and Sidney Poitier, The Defiant Ones. Oh no, it wasn't. It was Tony. It was Tony Curtis. Tony Curtis. I'm sorry. That's the one with two cons and they're escaping, but they hate each other. It's a race. It's a whole racial thing.
They probably wouldn't like Let's Guess Who's Coming to Dinner either.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. We got did I skip over anybody? Is it Wayne? Are you next?
I'm next. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now this is one that my best friend loves it. If he listens to the show, I told him I was going to bring it up. He wants me to watch this. I want nothing to do with it. I wanted nothing to do with it as soon as I heard the premise. And so originally when remember like they had Survivor, the stupid reality show,
right?
And so Survivor came on, and I was like, I watched the season. I said, the show blows or whatever. That's the end of that. So, okay. But then Lost came out, and I thought Lost was like some kind of Survivor thing. So I didn't want anything to do with it from the start, and it sounded like a bad premise. And then everybody talked about it so much, and it was like they're like a smoke monster and polar bears and everything, and I was like, there's no way that this show is ever going to pay off, and so I did refuse to ever watch it. I never even seen one episode. I've seen the toys for it, and that's about it. I know there's a fat guy on it, but other than that, I don't know anything about it. I'd hear all these things every week, people talking about it, and I got so sick and tired of hearing about it, and I was like so happy that the show never paid off. And people were pissed at the end because I don't want anything. And my best friend, he still, even though he got burned, he still thinks it's a great show. And it's like just something I don't want anything to do with, and I'm never going to watch it.
We've said something similar. We've said something along those lines before. You could start a film really poorly and end great, and people think it's a great film. But if you have 2/3 or like 4/5 of a great film and then the ending is shit, the movie's just doesn't work. It's shit. People hate it. It's how you feel leaving. It's the same way boxers like to have a flurry at the end of a round to impress the judges, because that it makes the judge forget that they just got their ass kicked for the first 2 minutes of the round or whatever. Sean, you were going to say something? I saw the little ring go up. No. Okay.
what little ring are you seeing going up?
There's if I'm screen sharing. I don't know if you're on a phone or if you're on tablet or whatever computer, but there's a little
my Xbox.
Oh, okay. There's a halo glow, like you have the force emanating from you when you're speaking, or when just because you're not a video
like
feed.
now, like
Yeah.
right now,
Like now.
Yeah.
Like right now, it's almost as if his spider sense is going off or something. Now
Yeah.
Derek's is going off as well. Derek, you wanted to say something.
Lost, was that? I ran to the bathroom real quick, so we're talking about Lost.
Right.
You got lost. You got
Maybe
lost.
that's what Sean did.
Lost was one of those shows. Wasn't that they didn't have a plan for the whole series? They didn't have a plan for past the pilot episode because it was just basically mystery, mystery, mystery. Answer one mystery, but we got to give you 5 new mysteries that we're never going to answer to just throw you off, and that's pretty much what the show was from start to finish. It was frustrating.
Rip off. No payoff. It sounds like it was never any payoff.
The payoff was ass. I would have preferred no payoff than the payoff they gave us.
What about Sean? What have you got next? I hope you're not running out of options.
No, I still got 2 pages worth.
This is part 1 in a 20-part series. Go ahead.
That's what happens when you come in late to the show. Also,
My bad.
No, that's all right. I have never watched, nor will I ever watch, nor do I want to watch Downton Abbey.
Yeah, me neither.
Is it a period piece thing?
That is one of them, and it's British, and it just looks like, like Derek would say, it looks like ass.
Man, that thing is like critics' wet dream, Downton Abbey, and I haven't seen an episode, although my wife liked it a lot. And
my parents love it. They love it. They went to see the movie, you name it. They own. I bought my mother the videos for Mother's Day, like for the last few years.
Wow, there's a movie?
Yeah, there was a movie. Yeah.
Jeez.
It was the movie. I think the premise of the movie was the Queen was going to come and visit, so they had to spruce the place up or whatever. Big deal. Yay.
Wait, was it on PBS?
Yeah. Yeah. It's too, things like that are too foddy for me. I don't like seeing us stuffy people walking around too much clothes. I really don't like anything before World War II. Seriously.
Well, hold on. There's okay. Let's give you guys an example. All right, I'm going to name some of those period piece, say films, and you tell me, just your reaction will say it all. The Remains of the Day.
What? Never saw it.
Right, the Merchant Ivory stuff, like A Room with a View.
Nope.
Never seen it.
Okay. See, so already, I'm losing you guys. Yeah, go ahead, Kerry.
Well, should we say ass or no ass?
Or whatever, if you just go swamp ass, skid. Okay, let's go with Jesus. Okay, something like. But if it's a period piece like Gangs of New York, which is really a gangster film, you guys that's fine.
Yeah.
But if it's one of those hoity-toity Emma, Sense and Sensibility type films, we think no, leave it to the fruits.
Well, what about what was it was on PBS. Wayne might remember, just age-wise, but it was it Caligula? It was a
not I, Claudius.
No, I, Claudius. That's exactly what it was.
That's brilliant.
Yeah,
that was
I'll watch those kind of Roman movies. I'll watch those. Like they had Masada. Remember they had Masada was on, and
right.
Those kind of things I like. Or even if when they had Shogun, something like that interests me. And there's just that English time period, and I don't even like the art from that period where they have big fat chicks with grapes and stuff, and it just makes me feel ill or something.
Reuben.
If I go to the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, I just blow through those rooms because I don't want to see those paintings. It just grosses me out.
Rubenesque women.
Yeah, nah, I've seen enough of that.
Well, you can just go down any street in Cleveland and find that painting reenacted many times over again. Not to say anything about Cleveland, guys. I just pick your favorite American city, smaller than the normal hubs, and you're good. You're good to go. But hold on, let's see if we got this through. Who are we? That was Wayne. So, Sean. That was just Sean, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Derek, what have you got next?
Keeping with the theme of stuffy British ass, The Crown.
I've never even
And I'm
heard of it.
assuming it's about the Queen of England when she was not 1,000 years old. But I'm
When she
not
didn't look
watching it.
like, when she didn't
It's
dress
on
like Lucky
Netflix.
Charms. With Lucky Charms.
Well, you know how
costume.
when you scroll through Netflix, if you land on anything, it automatically starts running the trailer for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I get that a lot with The Crown because for some reason it stays and I can't scroll past. It's just there. And I don't like the royals in real life. I doubt I would like the royals in fake life. And I could give a rat's ass about what Queen Elizabeth was doing in her 20s as much as I give a damn about what Queen Elizabeth is doing now at 175. So,
Right.
never to The Crown.
Well, you you're a loyalist. No, I think that I was trying to think of you just previous to go into the previous thing about period pieces. It depends what the genre is. Like Altman, one of Robert Altman's last films was Gosford Park, and it was like an Agatha Christie murder type thing, but very dark and cynical. But that one is worth watching. You did enjoy that because of the cast and the way it works, because it's very cynical and dark and funny. It's more of a comedy than anything else, and a lot of the people involved, I enjoyed it. But to watch a whole season of or multiple seasons of people in period piece, oh God, I don't even want to know about it. So the Crown sounds like a nightmare. It sounds like an ass festival.
Yeah, I found that I'm not a fan of Merchant Ivory or Merchant Ivory facsimiles. So
yes,
anything in that genre, I'm not down with.
Right.
So what's it called? Merchant Ivy? I've never
Merchant
heard of
Ivory. It was a line of films, usually starring Emma Thompson, that were, Howard's End is another one, I think.
Yeah.
Howard's End, The Remains of the Day.
And in the 90s, I remember, this is really bad. We used to just ride around in the car, like drinking and yelling out the window at people and filming it, like just getting reactions. and I remember there was like the Underground Theater had Howard's End. And so it was there for like a month, and it was on like the marquee. And we'd always ride by and it's like, hey, what do you go to see Howard's End? You going to see his ass? We'd yell it at like all the crowds were standing there. And they're like all like uppity kind of people, and
of course.
The looks of the reactions we used to get was a riot. It's like, you going to see his ass?
Well, those films kind of typified the snobbiness of film goers in the like 90s, in the mid to late 90s, when they started, art house films started proliferating big time. And there was one we had in my hometown called the Princess Court Theaters, and they would show, but they showed all kinds of stuff. Halloween, they'd always have the Rocky fucking Horror Picture Show, which was one of my picks, by the way. But then they would have Highlander. They might show some Chinese film, or there was a really good selection of stuff and older stuff that people want to revisit. But whenever you'd get those floofy films, it was like you'd find 6 people in the audience, and they'd all be with their monocle, or they'd have some.
Yeah.
I'm not joking. They'd be dressing like the Planters Peanuts guy, and they'd be walking with a top hat, or like literally dressing for the occasion as if they were in Elizabethan England. And the skies are filled with coal. You know what I mean?
But that's why we used to like. That's like why we used to like riding by. But I mean, that was the same place that was showing that kind of shitty movie. Was where I saw Clockwork Orange and Liquid Sky and all the some of my favorite movies. And but yeah, you could always tell that kind of crowd when Howard's End. And we have this on film. That's what's even funnier about it. It's just riding by there, like just filming people getting shocked by us.
That's a film. Where's the footage? I would love to see that footage.
I have it. It's on VHS. But yeah, we used to film. We used to ride around with the video camera, just yelling at people and filming it. And just yelling like strange things.
You were crank yankers before Florentine.
Yeah, yeah.
I
absolutely. I had a song. There's a song called Special Ed that's on my first CD. That was before Florentine.
Wow.
You got a lawsuit. Maybe you should take him to court. Like it's just whatever. It's not just hot, or what's it called? The song was about a true incident that when I got attacked by a retarded kid when I was like 6 years old, so it's ended up as like the last song on my first CD. Tell the story, please. Tell the story.
Well, they used to, like, what happened was the grade school was across the street from the high school, and there was a show in America called Zoom from Boston, and they were going to have the like the people that did all the wacky music for Zoom. Actually, like Monique was, she auditioned for that show.
Okay.
So they brought all the musicians in that do the weird sound effects for Zoom. So they marched us all across the street to the high school. But what was happening is, like, they told us to line up outside the auditorium, and this old lady with like cat's eye glasses comes walking down the hall, and she has all these big retarded kids with her that, that they had as in part of the high school. And so she's walking down the hall and with all these kids, and they're all like, oh, it's like, like the zombies are coming or something. I was scared. And then one of them came, and he had like a crash helmet on, like just like the character on Crank Yankers. And this is in the song and everything. And I was standing there, and he came over and started hugging me. He's like, oh, he was like drooling and stuff. And I was like ready to start crying. I was like 6, And the lady's like, oh no, that's how he says hi. And she's trying to calm me down. And I'm like, I don't like it, and they ended up taking them away and bringing them into the auditorium. And then they kind of ruined my whole Zoom presentation, because I was kind of like, I don't want them to come back, So it's the song is like based on that happening,
Wayne, just a quick note, just careful with your mic because we're getting some feedback from whatever it's touching, like your shirt or something.
Okay, it might be the cord. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I told a story with Sam about on the Quite Frankly podcast about going to sing Christmas carols to a retarded hospital, and and it was all made of wood. The building was all made of wood. And I always joke that if they ever wanted to get rid of the evidence, it would be real easy with one match. And we didn't have any parental consent forms, and we were like 11. It was grade 6, and it was the music teacher decided we're going to give back to the community. So one of the sounds we made when we were that age and we want to say you're retarded, we'd go like that. So yeah. I guess it's pretty universal amongst retard speak. And so what happened, we go in, and the minute we get started, one of the people in the hospital goes, and so my friend Mark and I, who just fucking buckled, we just buckled for 20 minutes. They're going through a Little Drummer Boy, and you're hearing that sound every 10 seconds. And we were in the back, so we were hiding behind everybody else singing, and they were trying to maintain composure, and you can't, when you just try that stupid laughter. And and the smell in there was awful. It was that like disinfectant and shit. There was no excuse. I'll never forget that smell. It was almost, it was not institutional. It was more like prison institutional, So Wayne, you wanted to say?
I got one more bad story.
Okay.
My best friend, he lives down in Florida now, but he used to live across the street from, there was like a little girl that was retarded, and he used to joke about this stuff, and I don't know. I was brought up that it wasn't supposed to be funny, but he actually was the one that kind of showed me that it can be funny, because the little girl, he's like, he's like, she used to run around. He's like, she run around the yard wearing Mickey Mouse ears, and they used to call her Mongoloid Mouse, and she'd be like running around. They're like, Wayne, come here. She's out. There's like Mongoloid Mouse is out, and like she's like running around the yard with the Mickey Mouse Club ears, And I was like, oh my God. And then but I had to laugh because it was, the whole scene was like really funny.
The visual.
Yeah, the visual of it is really funny. But the first time he told me about Mongoloid Mouse, I'm like, oh, you're cruel. But then when I saw it, it's like I had to laugh,
Derek, you finished off with The Crown, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's my turn. I'll go real quick, and this is in no part due to Howard, because he had the gayest taste in anything. But there's 2 shows. I'm going to give it 2 for, and they were both 90s: Dawson's Creek and My So-Called Life, which, like I was too old to really watch those shows anyway. But they were hits. Dawson's Creek was kind of a hit because of the kind of cute James Vanderbeek, and I think Katie Holmes she got her start through that, wasn't it?
Really?
Yeah.
Dawson's Creek, if I'm not mistaken. And My So-Called Life was Claire Danes way before, Homeland and whatever. Was it Homeland or The Russians she's in? I think it's Homeland. I'm not mistaken. Anyway, she got her kind of a career resurgence, and at that time though, I was like, no. This is like Degrassi high shit. Like knockoff. You're ripping off a Canadian show and doing it poorly because you're hiring actors. Degrassi was all amateurs, all amateur talent, and it looked like it. And Kevin Smith used to talk up Degrassi something awful. And I generally don't like anything Kevin Smith says anymore, but he was right about that because Degrassi dealt with real issues, and it was on low budget, filmed in Canada, but there was a charm to it because everybody was so amateurish, but it seemed grittier, you know what I mean? And then when Hollywood would try to do these teen shows about how, like white drama, like, oh my God, I'm so, my high school sucks and I'm a geek and I'm a loser and nobody likes me, but I'm very pretty and stuff. Like, what's your sympathy? You're not getting any from me, shithead. So had I been 13 and 14, I would have hated those shows. That never changed in my life. That's why I always preferred John Hughes movies before Home Alone and after. Yep. I never watched Home Alone. I would refuse to watch Curly Sue, all that kiddie shit, because he went down that road, and I said, "Fuck you! You'd lost your edge, dude." Best soundtracks ever, too. Those John Hughes soundtracks. But that's my take on them. Carrie.
Let's see. What have I got here? Full House.
Good.
Good choice. Excellent.
Okay, that's the one with the twins, right?
Yeah. And Stamos.
Yeah. Never, not once. I think I may have walked in the room once when my mother might have been watching it or something, but no, that's... I thought those little girls looked like, I didn't think they were cute or lovable or, worth
the
watching.
Devil's Daughter.
Yeah, they looked odd to me. And to this day, I think they're odd looking. Do you guys remember when Howard had that fascination with them? And
yes.
Yeah,
it was the audio. I had it on my old channel, and when I lost it, but he sexualized them when they were 13 and said they are pieces of ass. And it was like, this is when they were 13, and this is 2000, and he said this. And I have he tried to walk it back, and he goes, "Listen, I'm not saying I'm interested in them sexually." Meanwhile, he's talking about how they got boobs now and stuff. They never had boobs. One of them was on heroin, dealing heroin, I think, and allegedly to Heath Ledger, and but they looked heroin chic. Wayne.
That Full House, my sister loved that friggin' show. And it's so disgusting. It's like, and it's like how to make a bad thing worse. They had like Mike Love from the Beach Boys was on, and they all sang they sang Kokomo. And I'm like, this is like so bad. Like I was ready for like a vortex to open and drag my TV into it because it was so bad.
Wayne, do you know why that would be? That's because Stamos is tight with the Beach Boys. Yeah, and he's from Florida, if I'm not mistaken.
But they all went to a Beach Boys show or some shit. And my sister was sitting there watching this. I'm like, how can you watch this shit? This is like before I moved out.
Yeah.
And she loved it. And like the little girls, like I thought looked like the Devil's Daughter. It just, everything about it was just like just so bad. And then when I went to San Francisco recently, like we were on a bus tour and we were coming over the bridge and they started playing this music and everybody on the bus like erupted. Like they were so happy to hear the song. I'm like, and my girlfriend's like, what's that? I'm like, I don't know. So I turned around. I'm like, is this like something to do with like Full House? And she's like, yeah, it's the Full House theme. Like she was so happy. And I'm like just cringing. And I'm like, and I told my girlfriend, I said, it's a retarded show. You're not going to like it. Don't worry about it, And they're like, did you go to see the Full House? I'm like, no, I went to the Dead House like 3 times, but Full House means nothing to me,
Yeah. No.
And it just, I had no idea because I never heard the theme to the show. And everybody on the bus like erupted.
That's the only sane heterosexual response. Carrie, you wanted to say.
So you guys must have been coming off the bridge and then near where those row of houses are that I guess
exactly. Yeah.
Show.
Yep.
Yeah, that all cost like and that's kind of one of my pet peeves about a lot of these shows. Like, each one of those houses probably costs like $25 million right now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And yet it had this family there and they're just, living and getting by. But I was going to say, didn't one of the twins or both of them have some kind of catchphrase not on the level of
yeah.
what you're talking about, Willis, but it was like, yeah, dude, or something.
Was it something like oh no you didn't? God, my sister used to say it. My sister used to say it. That's how I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
you got
yeah.
it, dude.
And I would see that, and I'd be like, why? Someone should drown these kids.
What did they say? What was the catchphrase?
It was something about like, that's right, dude, and they would like do their thumbs up, and it was just, like
that's when you need the Elvis Presley remote through the TV patented move.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see if Full House was you, Gary.
Yeah.
Okay, Wayne.
I found the catchphrase. If you all care.
Oh yeah,
you got it, dude.
Man,
little chimpanzees would say on that show.
Yeah, you're right. They do look like spider monkeys or something. Those two kids when they were like that gaunt look,
big
like
eyes.
Baby baboons.
Something. And then what's he talking about? They were hot. Wiggy used to say they're so hot. What is he into, like fucking heroin baboon chic?
I don't know.
Rachel Maddow's
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Rachel Maddow.
That's all Howard needs.
I can remember like the one that was like, one of them is like fairly healthy and not into the heroin, but the other one that was Heath Ledger's friend, I remember seeing pictures of her and just feeling sorry for her. Like she looked terrible. She's like
she's like the Macaulay Culkin, the female Macaulay Culkin.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really sad. Really sad.
Yeah. Wayne, what have you got next?
Okay, this is one that's going to be controversial, but Game of Thrones. I got so sick of hearing the Game of Thrones. I'm glad I didn't watch it. I know everybody got burned at the end, and I'm happy because it makes me happy. That's how evil I am, because it's like I just got so sick and tired of every radio show I listen to talking about Game of Thrones and how great it is. And it's like none of it interested me in the least. There were people that would not do things with me because they had to be home to watch Game of Thrones. They couldn't record it. They had to watch it live. And that bugs the shit out of me because I've never stayed home for a TV show ever, And then in the end, everybody said it sucked. There was the ending of it sucked. And I was like, good. That's what you get.
Schadenfreude incarnate. Okay, let's go with Sean.
I'm gonna have to go with Sex in the City.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure none of you guys have watched it, right?
No, you lose that bet,
right?
Oh, I've seen it.
We were without internet. We were without like English options, except for that show, which I think the station decided we're going to buy the box set and just fuck the copyright and just replay these seasons over and over again without HBO's permission. And I didn't mind some aspects of it occasionally, but then I realized after I got away from it, this really is a horrific fucking gay series. It's just like a bunch of women instead of fruits, and it was written by a gay guy. And then he said I was writing the protagonists as if they were gay men, and we just put women in that was the big genius idea he had. But you never saw an episode, Sean, never once.
No, hell no.
God, I got dragged to the movie.
You're kidding.
Yeah, I got dragged to the movie by an old girlfriend. It was. Yeah.
Did you at least get like hand release afterwards or during? Not that I need to know the details, but I'm saying that was there a payoff from having seen this fucking?
Yeah, there was, and it was worth it. So,
really?
Yeah.
2.5 hours of Sex in the City. Wayne, go ahead.
Well, I mean, when that came out, like I remember watching it and it just thinking that it's like so over the top cartoony or something, like just the way the things that they were. Well, now that you tell me that it was written by a gay guy, it totally makes sense.
Yeah,
right.
Because it was just like things that it was like almost like so stereotypical women that it was hokey.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like that, like just the way that I don't know how to explain it, but I remember I got in a big argument with this girl that was a mutual friend of one of my friends, and I said, and she thought like she loved it, saying how great the show was and stuff, and I was like, I'm like, well, really? I said, well, let me explain. The difference between men is, like, we like Iron Man, but we know Iron Man's not real, and none of that stuff's real. But we know that. But the difference with you guys is you watch that Sex and the City stuff and emulate it, and it's not real. You know?
Right.
And this girl was like, no, that's how you don't understand women. You don't understand. I'm surprised you're not gay because you don't understand women, because of that show is so right on the mark. And I'm like, well, you're a shallow person, you know? And I tried to tell her, it's like, I like Iron Man, but I know I'm not going to be Iron Man, but you want to be like those women, you know?
I drink like Tony Stark, but I don't dress up in a tin suit. Well, in Asia, that show is almost perfectly formulated for all women to fucking idolize, because every woman has that fat friend, the sort of dykey friend, the butch friend, the girly friend, the really narcissistic friend and shit. And they're all unlikable characters, almost every one of them. Remember that one? My wife watches one of she watches all the Dick Wolf shows, but the Chicago Fire, I think it is, and that guy who played Steve in the Sex and the City show, like the Miranda, the really lesbian looking one that came out of the closet way later. Cynthia Nixon, I think her name is, or Dixon. She did a guest shot and won an Emmy on SVU for playing she murdered her parents and she's playing half schizo. She was brilliant in that, which makes it amazing why I tolerated her for Sex and the City. But the each character was so awful. I think the only reason I did put any time into it was because I liked Kim Cattrall. I really liked her, and she's a Canadian actress from way back. And Porky's, man, how can we forget Lassie?
Yeah.
And I watched that scene in the principal's office where all the gym teachers are laughing from Porky's, and I still fucking laugh. Like it's so many decades later, that will never not be funny. That scene.
She was also in a police academy movie.
Yes, she was.
What was it? Police Academy
Howler.
Citizens on Patrol.
Citizens on Patrol. Yes.
And she was in Star Trek 6. She played the Vulcan. She was like a douchebag Vulcan that was supposed to be Spock's replacement.
That's right.
That was her. Yeah.
Yep.
No,
that was Valaris. Valaris or something like that.
Yeah,
I remember Family Guy did a funny cutaway about Sex and the City, and I just remember one of the lines from one of the girls, from one of the women was, like, "Oh, I slept with all the New York Knicks today," or something like that.
That's a good one.
Like they were all sitting around a table talking about who they had screwed.
Okay, who's next?
I think it's me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Another new one.
Sorry, Wayne.
Amazon.
Wayne, that mic.
Yeah.
That's we're hearing it slide against your shirt again.
Okay.
Just throw it in front a little bit, just so towards your chest. Yeah. Go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, it's another Amazon show that attacks me every time I go on a Fire Stick. The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. All I've gotten from the brief snippets I see of the trailer as I'm trying to get away from it is it's, to paraphrase Arthur Lang, Jubra does stand-up comedy.
Is it like a Joan Rivers kind of story, or Martha Ray or something like that? Or
I couldn't tell you. It's a lady named Mrs. Maisel, and she's marvelous, and she does stand-up comedy.
It's gotta be a Joan Rivers gimmick or whatever.
And it's like set in the olden days.
Derek, you sold me. You should be selling. What's that line in Tommy Boy? You should be selling ketchup popsicles to people in white gloves.
How like what time periods it's set in?
I think like the 60s or the 50s.
Oh, it must be Joan Rivers based on. But see, Adi doesn't like Joan Rivers. He's come out and said it.
He hates female comics.
Yeah, and he just said that she was always rude to him and didn't even acknowledge him when she'd come in the room and stuff. Yeah.
Well, he had that special hate reserved for her and William Shatner, who also didn't fucking which what, after all we've heard about William Shatner, maybe not diving into the pool fast enough to save his drunk wife. That might have been the best roast joke I never heard. I guess Sam Simon wrote a joke for Artie for Robin at the Joan Rivers roast, or no, the William Shatner roast, and they never got to do it. He said, William Shatner recently won an Emmy for Boston Legal, and he must value it because when he fell into the pool, he dove in after it and saved it. They wouldn't allow that.
The joke that I heard that somebody said was, it's like, hey, wait a minute, he dived in the water to open the ship to save the whales in Star Trek 4, but he wouldn't dive in the water to save his own wife.
That's brilliant. Sounds like a Jeff Ross joke, but I don't know that they'd allow that. Okay.
Did Artie not like Lampanelli, or was Lampanelli on after he left?
Hold on for a sec. Let me see if I can. I'm sharing. Let me see if I'm sharing audio as well. Hold on. Sharing options. Can you guys? Well, I'm going to see if I can play it, and if I can play it, we may have to restart this. I'm not sure. I have a clip called Artie Lampanelli, and because she came on with that guy Joey Big Balls, and he started just imitating her. Hold on, Artie.
I think Joey Big Balls still works at the Comedy Cellar, right?
He may. He was he wasn't Artie as Lampanelli. Okay, it's a minute long. Let's see if I can get this one right. Tell me if you guys can hear this. Can you hear that?
No.
Can you guys hear that? Nothing? Okay, hold on a sec. Let me get back into Skype and share. Let me start sharing. Share audio, sound, start sharing. Okay, now let me try again. How about now?
Yeah.
Okay.
You dirty heap! Look at you, you big wop! I used to date nothing but filthy niggers. And now I'm trying to get a dirty he blade. Look at you, you're a pale dirty he. I got another dirty he dressing me, and I'm a big wop. I'm a big wop who's fucking another big wop who used to fuck big niggers.
Now, guys, we don't condone any of this. The whole premise was Lisa G was in the studio, and they were just. She said she had a stylist who was a Jew, and then so Artie just picked up the thing because he really was just doing her thing.
Yeah.
Lisa.
Her whole act.
Lisa G. My guy's without papers. He's without papers. Lisa G.
So just to recap.
Yeah, you dirty, filthy Jew.
Anyway, so it goes on and on. There's about a minute, but we don't have to go through all that. But he had a special loathing for female comics. My favorite was when he took apart Roseanne Barr. He goes, just imagine, her stand-up was shit. Imagine this big fat broad who goes on the Tonight Show talking like I'm a domestic goddess and I hate my husband. And she got a sitcom from that. And it's kind of true. But anyway.
True.
Yeah.
What's her name used to make fun of her too? Is what's her name? The Emo Phillips girlfriend.
Judy Tenuta?
Yeah, Judy Tenuta used to go off on Roseanne. Like on her first album, there's a whole thing called Blowzanne, and she does the voice and everything.
Well, she kind of Roseanne, maybe that's her natural voice, but I don't know if she's ripped off Judy's whole voice or that's how nasal she really is, but Judy definitely had the same voice. So I don't know who ripped off who, or she's just making fun of Roseanne.
The bit was supposed to be about Blowzanne, like her roommate, and you could tell it was supposed to be Roseanne Barr. She'd go, "Hey, Judy," she'd do the voice.
There's a blast from the past. So who's next? I've lost track now.
Let's see.
Who went last?
I think I went.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
I
it's
went
my
last.
turn.
Yeah,
Okay, it's my turn. I'll throw 2 Jack Nicholson films, both back in the archives. I never saw and never wanted to see either of The Shining or Batman.
Wow.
Yeah. And because I was
good
just not a
choices.
Nicholson guy, and Batman was so fucking overhyped, and I refused to see it. Also, there's this kid, Ryan, in my class that was a big asshole, and he wore the Shining shirt, like the Here's Johnny cut of Nicholson going through the thing, and I hated him so much I decided anything that Jack Nicholson was in, and this guy, because he was a huge Nicholson fan and I didn't like Nicholson to begin with, so I go, I'm making the right choice. This guy's an asshole and Nicholson I hate. So it wasn't until like Nicholson was in his, I don't know, until I was way older that I saw a Nicholson film, because I just had this bias against him. Sorry guys, it's not rational. Something's Got to Give. That Keanu Reeves, Diane Keaton film was like a rom-com. No, it was just a drama, actually. I really enjoyed that, actually. I liked it a lot. And my sister told me I should watch As Good as It Gets, and she said that film could have been released in the 50s. That's how good it was, and I still never saw it, but I trust my sister with most things. She liked the writing.
Yeah, I've never had a problem with Jack Nicholson movies. I even like the hippie ones like Psych Out or whatever and things like that, you know. But The Shining is a good movie.
Well, years later, The Departed, obviously, but then
Yeah.
The Postman Always Rings Twice. I saw that. I think that was with John Colicos and Jennifer Lang, and but then like Five Easy Pieces way later after the fact, and he did one with Marlon Brando. I think. What was it called? It was a cowboy film actually, and I don't remember it, but he complained Brando never learned his fucking lines, but he never did. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
anyway.
that was a common criticism of Brando. I think after, I don't know, maybe Streetcar Named Desire, because I read somewhere that he was reading off cue cards for the Godfather movie.
Yeah, he had him on like
notes.
Duvall's lapel.
Yeah, yeah, I heard the same thing. Yep.
And his argument was, and I see what he's talking about. His argument was, in life we don't know what we're going to say, so necessarily. So he wanted the idea of it's going to come more naturally if you just if it comes out of you in a sort of non-performed way, and it works. In The Godfather, you'd never know. Yeah, I know, but when you're making that kind of money, clearly he knew something. I think he was just super talented and lazy.
Yeah, but you won't watch The Shining for the Stanley Kubrick part of it, or?
No, I don't care. Because I'm not a huge Kubrick fan either. I mean, I didn't
okay.
see. I saw Barry Lyndon as a kid because I was told you got to watch it. It's a great film, and I hated it.
Yeah,
but
it's not a great film. It's just beautiful, but I mean, it looks great, but it's not a great film.
I mean, I love Full Metal Jacket. Doctor Strangelove, never saw it.
Whoa,
really?
Never.
That's a good movie.
So you really hate
that.
There's certain directors I won't watch, and one of them now for forevermore. Okay, Tarantino was one. The other one is Christopher Nolan. I don't think I'll watch another film of his ever. Yeah. Yep.
Tenet looks so good though. You're gonna just skip over if we ever get out of the house.
Which one?
Tenet coming up?
I don't know anything about. Don't know anything about it.
Wait, did he direct Batman? Who directed Batman?
Yeah.
Was it Chris Nolan?
Let's
Batman Begins, Dark Knight,
Inception,
those three Batmans.
Memento, if I'm not mistaken.
Like Memento. Yeah, Memento's
Dunkirk.
good too.
Was Dunkirk was his, right?
Right. Okay.
Hated Dunkirk. Fucking
really, it's bad.
Hated it. I thought you should deserve to die in the fucking war. Actually, the Inception was the one where everybody started telling me, well, you just didn't understand the film. I go, no, I got it. I just thought it was crap on so many levels. I just don't like his filmmaking style. So I've realized that. And then I think so what was the one, Insomnia? I sort of thought that was okay, but not enough to rewatch it ever again.
That's the Al Pacino one.
Yeah, Hilary Swank.
Yeah, I'd say Al Pacino kind of killed that movie for me because it was like kind of the acting was a little bit too over the top.
Right, and it was one more of those turns where what's his name, Robin Williams was actually the best part of the film when he's not the main focus. Like I preferred him as a bit part in certain films. Carrie,
I was gonna say, so you wanted the Germans to win at Dunkirk. Then that was your takeaway.
Well, if they got rid of Harry Styles in the process, that's fine by me. I think he was in that, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So that
wait, was he was one of the young one of the guys on the beach, right?
I guess.
Yeah.
And if he got a stray bullet or a blank like John Eric Hexum or Brandon Lee, that would have been fine by me.
Yeah, my problem with Dunkirk was they put it was like they had like a 15-minute preview for it before Wonder Woman, and I'm like, oh, come on, let's just get Wonder Woman on the screen. Like I've seen enough of this. I don't care,
That's a fucking hard
sell.
Never
saw it. That's why I never saw it. And it's like I probably wouldn't mind the movie, but I'm waiting to watch Wonder Woman, and you got that on there. I don't want to see it.
Carrie, what have you got?
Let's see. Wow, this list is really getting shut down here. Murphy Brown.
Never seen it.
Damn.
Anti Candace Bergen or anti J. Thomas what?
You know, I mean, not really. Again, it's just in that era of shows where I had like zero interest. I mean, I don't even know what it was about. They were at a TV station or TV news department or something.
Yeah,
They tried to bring it back recently.
Yeah.
Oh, I
didn't
remember
turn
that.
out too well.
Yeah.
Wait,
I didn't even get to see it.
Was Phil Hartman in that one?
That was News Radio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, same era, I believe. Mid 90s, 95, 94, something like that.
Well, they all kind of blend in together. You know, I didn't watch News Radio either.
Well, there's certain shows I remember. I don't know about you guys, but like once I started working as soon as I could get as many hours as I could, I worked a lot of night shifts, so I couldn't trust my mother, who, you know, there's still a fucking VCR flashing 12 every time I go back to Canada, and to record stuff. Couldn't set it because she wanted to record something else at the time, and I couldn't watch any of the shows I really liked anyway. So I just lost touch with watching like NYPD Blue. I was an avid watcher and couldn't do it because I was working nights most of the time when I wasn't in school, and even when I was in school, I got part-time work. So a lot of shows of that era I missed completely through no fault of my own, really. So okay, Murphy Brown. Wayne, what do you got next?
Okay, now this is along the same lines as Murphy Brown. There was a show that was called 30 something. I remember I was in my late 20s, and I remember it just sounded to me like a bunch of whiny, like rich people just bitching about their lives or whatever. And when it came on, I wanted nothing to do with it. My boss at the time, my supervisor, and one of the girls I worked with would talk about it every next, he'd come out and like, did you watch it last night? And then I'd overhear them talking about the premise. I'm like, what a fucking stupid show. And then she was like, that girl was probably maybe only 3 years older than me, but me and the other guys and that, we were all the Caltechs, electronic techs, and we started calling her 30 something, which really pissed her off because she was only a few years older than all of us, but we were calling her the 30 something. It's like every time she'd do something, we say, oh, must be because you're 30 something, like just never letting her live it down that she watched that show.
Yeah, my sister was big on that one. If you want an analogy, guys, for across the pond, there was a show in England called This Life, and it was only 2 seasons. And Andrew Lincoln, the guy from The Walking Dead, the sheriff dude, Rick, whatever his name is, the character, he featured in that, and it was just about 20-something young British lawyers, like barristers, and other jobs as well. Yeah. And they're living together, sharing a flat, and there's a lot of sex, a lot of drugs, a lot of drinking, and a lot of like cheating and shit like that. And I enjoyed it at the time, and I thought I was watching something nobody else saw because it was a late night thing in Canada, but it was a British show. And then years later, I watched it again, and even though the performances are pretty good, it was so much of an artifact of its time, and it just doesn't. I don't think it holds up. But they did a reunion 10 years after, and it was cringeworthy. I wish they hadn't have done it, like a one-off, and it just wasn't good.
But was
great
like
music,
I thought, like 30 something was more about like people just whining about like getting ready to go into middle age or something.
Oh yeah,
like that's I never saw it. Just what I heard about it just sounded like a bunch of whiny rich people,
I think you nailed it pretty much. So Sean, are you next? I believe.
Yeah, I was going to mention a movie by all our favorite little psycho actor Nick Cage, but then you brought up Walking Dead, and you know what? I've never watched that.
Yeah, me either.
I never have either.
Well, it was based on a comic, wasn't it?
Comic, yeah. I read almost all the comics, but I never watched one episode of the show.
You had, and that's interesting that you watched them before there was a show? I mean, you read them before there was a show?
Yeah, because that comic had been going on for like 10 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so why were you adamantly opposed to watching it, or just never got around to it?
It was kind of like, I read the comic. What could the show actually bring to me that would be different? And it's like, just
not
couldn't
much
get into
for
it.
the most part.
That's what I've heard.
Well, I saw the first season and lost interest immediately because I just thought, I don't know if I can do more seasons of zombies going after people and then people slowly getting like picked off. And then, because I know it's almost like if you know the parlor trick, you can't watch the trick. Do you know what I mean?
Well, see, you're missing the big thing about The Walking Dead that they always like to say whenever anybody talks about it. It's not about the zombies.
Right.
No,
it's about the people.
About the people rebuilding. And trust me, that gets really boring after a
Most
while.
pretentious fucking tagline in the world, too.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, I just never watched it. Just kind of didn't care.
Yeah.
No reason, nothing against it. Just not my kind of thing.
Well, Derek, what have you got next? Because we'll get to wind this up too, because I don't know how much longer I can record for. But please go ahead. Let's do one more round, and then let's at least. Derek.
Big Little Lies. It's a HBO show that stars Reese Witherspoon, Nicole Kidman, and Shailene Woodley, and is always in the previews. And I'm trying to watch other stuff on HBO.
Okay.
You could not get a more unappealing trio of witches to make me not want to watch a show than Reese Witherspoon, Nicole Kidman, and Shailene fucking Woodley. Never gonna watch it.
It's a train
Wow. Yeah. Well, like it takes all kinds. I mean, let's be honest. It's like singers in a band. If you don't like that singer, it doesn't matter how good the music is. You're not getting past it. Actors, same thing. Sometimes you just don't want to give that person your money or waste your time on it. I'm going to go for my next one with The Office, the American version.
I've never seen it.
I hate Steve Carell with a passion. There's something about him that just makes me not want to watch him. And so I just refused to watch it. And people raved about it. And I'd seen episodes of the British one, and I wasn't that keen on that anyway. So I said, fuck it. Why am I going to watch this remake? Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. This one, I have no idea if it worked or not. Some people loved it. So.
Same here. That's what I tried to watch the British one.
Yeah.
I watched about 2 episodes and didn't really care. Didn't care for it. And then the American one, I didn't want. After that, it's like, well, what do I want to watch the American one for when the British one wasn't good?
Well, there you go. See, that's a better indictment that I could give. Carrie, how about you?
Let's see. Man, I'm getting really down to the nitty-gritty.
You can borrow some of mine if you want.
I never watched Third Rock. Third Rock from the Sun.
Third Rock from the Sun.
Never did either.
I never watched that either.
That was
I saw some of it.
That was
the show that had that Lurch woman, right? That large, goofy-looking woman.
She's now in the show Mom. She's now in the show Mom, and actually she's great. But I also didn't watch that Third Rock. I never did.
Yeah.
Wow. So did you watch it? Or Wayne, you didn't see the...
I've never seen an episode of Third Rock.
What about Sean? He had to watch it.
Yeah, I saw some episodes, and you guys are not missing anything, so don't feel bad. Told you I got low standards.
Well, I mean, there's certain critically acclaimed shows that people think there's something wrong with you if you don't watch them. They don't understand that, if it's not your cup of tea, why are you going to watch it? Oh, I meant to ask Wayne, is Movie Steve going to be paying attention to this one?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh. Yeah, I talked to him the other night after middle of the week because he wanted to see how I was doing and stuff. And but yeah, the two of us are going through withdrawals from not going to movies.
You got to disinfect your lucky chairs.
Yeah, no, my F7. That's probably got an inch of dust on F7 now. But yeah, I was actually going through pictures on my phone, and there was a picture I posted on the old place or whatever of my movie seat after we did one of the shows. I was like, oh, my movie seat, I see it was sitting there, damn. But I really miss going to movies. That really sucks.
Me too. Even a shit film just to get the popcorn, their kind of popcorn, because you never make it right. They use a special kind of salt. And I missed the Heart Attack, the old butter. It was like they said one drip was like a Big Mac, the equivalent of a Big Mac. But I miss that shit. The stuff they use now is awful. It's garbage.
Yeah, it's not the same.
So Wayne, you got what you got?
My final one is now there's a story behind this one too. It's Coyote Ugly. It's a movie I want nothing to do with. It's there was a girl that I remember I was doing Match.com for a while, and there was a really hot Asian chick, and me and her were like exact opposites. It's almost like every movie that I like, she didn't understand or didn't. It was just a deal killer, you know. We went out one time and it was almost like everything, just everything the whole night she argued with me about, you know. And it's too bad because she was pretty hot, but I got to the point where like she's like, "Oh, Coyote Ugly is my favorite movie," and I was like, and I had never. She's like, "Oh, you got to see it, you got to see it," and it's just like to this day I refuse to see it just because of this bad date. I remember like we ended up going to see some bands. There was a group called Holly Go Lightly that I thought was pretty good. They're kind of a 50-ish kind of sound. And she's like, "Well, I want to go home." And I was like, "Okay." So I took her home, took her all the way home, which was across town, went back to the venue, and I was lucky I knew the doorman because I got back in time to see the headlining band, you know. He let me back in. But it was just such a horrible date and the whole thing that Coyote Ugly, if I even see a picture of it, I'm like, I cringe because I don't want to know anything about it. I don't have any idea what it's about, but I know if she likes it, it's got to be bad.
Well, that was another one of those movies that spawned like a restaurant or bar franchise, right?
Yeah, it did. Yep.
Did they have one in Boston?
I don't know. If they did, I don't want to know about it. It wouldn't be the kind of place I'd go to. Like I always went to like dive bars with like bum bars. I always like to just hang around bum bars.
I remember they had one in Vegas, and this is years ago. Hopefully it's not there anymore. But yeah, it was. Yeah, they had the whole theme, and the girls would get up on top of the bar and dance. It was pretty bad.
Well, it's like didn't they do the same kind of thing with like Cocktail with Tom Cruise? That's another one I never want to see.
I've seen that probably 100 times, that film. I love every bad moment of that.
Never
seen it. Is it another bad, so bad it's good?
Yes, because of Brian Brown. I watched that for Brian Brown. He makes it worth watching, but everything else is awful. The idea of the guy's dream was to open a bar, and all they do, there's 20 people around the bar watching these two guys spend 5 minutes to make a drink, and they're happy. Like you're waiting for your drink, waiting in line, and all these guys doing like throwing these things around like hand grenades, and then like they're awesome, wow, right. That happens. Try that in any bar.
Did any of you guys ever?
Assholes.
Did any of you guys see Coyote Ugly?
No.
Nope.
No, and I will tell you, there's one of my wife's friends. Even if she's listening to this, the friend won't, but my wife might listen to this. So I have to be careful. I never liked her, but she was just a big loudmouth fat schnook, and she loved the soundtrack. There was that one song, "Can't Fight the Moonlight" or something, and she would request it at the bar all the fucking time, and because of that, I made it a personal vendetta to never ever support that filmmaker, those actors, the sound. Anybody on that soundtrack was dead to me. Like they were all Fredo, and especially Coyote Ugly. So I would refuse. And my wife one time she said, "You want to watch it with me?" I go, No. And if this is going to cause a problem, I'll take that problem for a week rather than watch it. I was adamant.
Yeah, that's how it's unanimous, and none of us seen it.
Wait a minute. Did Sean say what? Sean, did you see it?
No, I have not seen that.
Okay.
Okay.
His bro credentials are very strong. So, Derek, before we go let's just give a list of the remaining stuff we have, and we don't have to go through them, but just to see what kind of reaction we get. Sean who was Coyote Ugly? Was that you, Wayne?
Me. That was me. Yeah.
Okay, Sean, give us a list of whatever you got left, and we can cross our stuff off as well.
All right, let me grab it real quick. Okay, so as far as movies go, I've never seen Apocalypse Now, and I never want to see it.
Wow.
Yeah. It's based off Heart of Darkness, which I fucking detested that book. So screw the movie.
Okay.
I have never seen any of the National Treasure movies because
me neither.
Nick Cage.
No, me neither.
I've never seen Step Brothers or Elf because I can't stand Will Ferrell.
Okay, he's one of his is on my list.
I have never seen Juno because it looks like hot garbage.
Yeah, it's okay.
I've never seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind because I really don't like Jim Carrey.
Yep.
Then get to my TV shows. I've never seen House of Cards because Kevin Spacey is a creepy fucker. And
that's for sure.
That's it for my list.
Okay. Derek, what have you got left?
I didn't have much left. I was like Carrie. I was getting kind of low. On the movie side, never saw or will see Manchester by the Sea because I think Ben Affleck's little brother is a cunt.
He is.
Never saw Babe because pigs are vile, disgusting creatures, and having one running around talking just gross.
But they taste good.
They do.
Yeah, a dead pig fried up, I'm there for it, but not a lot. And never have or will see Marriage Story because Kylo Ren's a dirt face and
driver.
And I honestly detest Scarlett Johansson. I think she's a horrible actress, and, and I don't like her. So
that movie gave me nightmares because there was a lot of stuff in there reminded me of my divorce. So I had a nightmare after I watched that. But I think overall I thought it's okay.
I think most people just looking at Adam Driver's face would get PTSD because he just looks like someone took the Brooklyn Brawler and like mated him with like Smurfette or something. I don't know. Anyway, keep going.
On the TV side, The Handmaid's Tale, it's like I understand it's supposed to be something about a dystopian future where the men force all the women into subjugation or something, but all I get from it is they look like a bunch of like milkmaids in red costumes.
Seen it.
So, I'm not going to bother with that. And that show Outlander, that is, the premise is why I'm never going to watch this, because it looks like it's a romance novel transferred to TV where some stuffy college professor somehow travels back in time to have randy adventures with some Scottish Highlander. It's
my
like
mother and sister love it, but that's exactly what it is.
I saw a trailer for it. It looked like one of those pornos where they try to act with all the sex pulled out of it. So it's like no actual pornography, just the bad acting and storylines from
Brock Landers, Angels Live in My Town.
Yeah, and that was it for me.
Okay, I'll go with my movies, 80s movies. Mystic Pizza, because Julia Roberts, basically, but also because people were raving about it, and I just looked really like a shittier version of Say Anything. Tootsie, because I don't care to see some guy dressed like a woman and I didn't see Mrs. Doubtfire either, so.
God, I was going to bring that up, but yeah, that's another one.
Fuck your drag. Sorry, Terry Garr. Little Shop of Horrors, because, well, it's a musical, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, no musicals. Either of the I broke the rule to see Shia LaBeouf, that fucking fag. In the Temple of Doom I never saw, and the what was the one, Last Crusade? I didn't see either of those.
Crystal Skull.
Crystal Skull, I made them because it was the only thing that day, and I regret seeing that too. I hope John Hurt got paid a fucking boatload to be in that piece of shit. But I wouldn't see the sequels because I felt Raiders of the Lost Ark couldn't be bettered, and I think it wasn't. So I just, didn't have any expectations for him, so I just said no. Sid and Nancy I wouldn't see because I knew too much about it, and I knew it would be shit. Maybe it isn't, I don't know. Shakespeare in Love. We go into the 90s. Shakespeare in Love. I was told to see that, and I had a big fight with my girlfriend. I said, you go see whatever you want. I'm watching Blade, whatever the fuck. Fargo. A lot of Coen brothers films I will just not watch. Just something about
Fargo's good, yeah.
Yeah.
I like Fargo.
The Doors. I love Oliver Stone, but I hate the fucking Doors. I'll never watch that. In the 2000s.
You know what? The thing with Sid and Nancy and the Doors are kind of, you're not going to like them because it's almost like fantasy versions of the story.
Right.
And it's not factual. You're not going to like Johnny Lydon in it at all.
Right.
The same with the Doors. There's some pretty silly acting by Kyle MacLachlan in it.
Yeah.
There's like one scene that's really funny where Jim takes a turkey and throws it out the window or something, and in Raymond Zarek, Kyle MacLachlan, he's like, my God, Jim, have you lost your mind? It sounds like Dr. McCoy or something. It's really silly. But you're not missing anything. I know I mean, I like them because I can put them as like fantasy.
Mhm.
But if you want to see a movie about anything real, both of those movies, they're not real.
Yeah. So in the 2000s, let's go with Cloverfield. Again, horror films didn't do much for me in the first place, and that one just seemed like it was going to be a headache. Anchorman. I know lots of people love that film, but I'm getting fed up. I got fed up with Will Ferrell's shtick, so I like him as a bit guy. The 40-Year-Old Virgin, I think the aforementioned Steve Carell thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, Avatar, never saw, never cared to see. Didn't care about the effects and 3D and all that bullshit. So Moulin Rouge and Chicago going together hand in hand with that. So musicals. When we go into TV shows from the 80s, I had a bunch. So let me see. MacGyver. I know people think I'm stupid like that, but Airwolf was one. Although, however, go into Twitter and there's a guy as Jan Michael Vincent. It's called @Airwolf for Life. The Airwolf for Life, and he is the best. It says, "I'm the real Jan Michael fucking Vincent, and I'm nowhere near dead. This Twitter shit is my ticket back to Hollywood. By the way, I really fucking flew Airwolf." So here it's the funny streets. Okay. Finally got my stimulus check. Actually got 8 of them. Went down my street and cleaned out everyone's mailbox. Time to hit up the diaper head. Check cashing joint. Hashtag fuck. Hashtag hero. So let's see. Camel jockey at the local corner store lets me walk out with hashtag cold ones because I'm a fucking movie star. Got my poster behind the counter. Hashtag not paying. So everybody follow.
Really funny.
He's really funny. So go on to Jan Michael Vincent. It's the best thing.
Wow.
Let me read one more. I don't give a fuck about coronavirus. Summer won't stop, and neither will the cookouts. You need JMV's Mach 1 barbecue sauce because everything else tastes like shit. $45 a bottle cash. Hashtag no refunds. So you definitely got to check it out.
But just the fact that he picked Jan Michael Vincent to do this,
I love
this
that.
thing, it's like, that's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Magnum PI, Mr. Belvedere, Saved by the Bell, Cagney and Lacey, and Trapper John MD, because I was a Quincy guy for life. Man, these colors don't run. In the 90s, there was a show called Freaks and Geeks, which I was told to watch, but
really? Yeah, it's
I love Joe
right.
Flaherty, but I didn't want to give it a try.
No, that's good.
Wings.
Yep.
Ellen, no, never. Sorry.
No.
I knew my shit comedians well, and I would not.
My ex-wife, I've seen every episode of Ellen because when I was married, she loved it. I used to sit there and roll my eyes. The writing was so bad, the characters sucked, and I just sit there and I knew she was a lesbian, and like when she was talking about guys, I'm like, but you're a lesbian. And my ex-wife used to get pissed off. She's like, just stop it,
Right.
you know.
Yeah. No, you don't buy that. Yeah, you don't.
No.
You didn't buy her as some kind of love interest with a guy. And the last one was Grace Under Fire because I fucking hated Brett Butler's voice. Yeah. And ironically enough, it wasn't until she did an interview with Mark Malkoff for the Carson podcast, which is a great show for those of you listening. She was fantastic. One of the best interviews I ever heard. And she was very gracious and, of course, clearly over her alcohol addiction. And she was really, really amazing to listen to. But I hated that. I thought I would hate that show. I heard the voice in a trailer and I said, nope, like a commercial.
Didn't Audie have something to do with her for some? I can't remember what the connection between him and Audie was.
With who? With Brett Butler?
Audie Lang.
With Brett Butler?
Yeah, on Audie Lang for some reason. I can't remember what I meant. I don't know if he did an imitation of her or
I don't
worked
know.
with her. Or,
maybe, but I don't think he worked with her. But I'm not sure. I don't think.
Who else was on that program?
Dave Thomas. Was Tom Poston?
All right.
God, who else? And Tom Poston, one of the funniest stories. If you watch also on the Gilbert Gottfried Amazing Colossal podcast, Dave Thomas also a time capsule good fucking episode where he talks Tom Poston's stories, how Tom Poston's wife died and what's her name? Suzanne Flechette her husband died, and they were friends growing up, and they dated early on. So after they were both widowed and widowed, they got together. And she said, "You're not marrying me unless I get a big rock." So he actually got a real rock and just set it into gold, and gave her an engagement ring, just a rock off the street, and gave it to her, proposed to her, and that was her wedding ring. She laughed. She loved it.
Was she who was the one that was designing women? It's another show I never seen. Never wanted anything to do with.
Delta
Okay,
Burke.
that's okay.
Annie Potts was in that. Yeah. So
Maybe
that's
I'm
my
mixing
list.
it up with her. Yeah.
The rest of 2000s, I can't think of any more movies that we whatever didn't get. So, Carrie.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think I was talking to you guys about this story that I had read somewhere, but I couldn't remember who the actress was. But it was one of those kind of true Hollywood stories, and it was about Brett Butler. She had a real bad alcohol problem, right?
Big time. Yeah. During the show.
So the story was, you know how like 100 episodes is the magic number to get syndicated, right?
Yeah.
And they were up to, if I remember this right, they were up to like in the high 90s, and she was such a mess that they were just like, forget it. Or she had like these crazy demands, and the producers wouldn't meet them, and she was out of control, and she just held everybody else hostage, and they just threw in the towel. And I mean, you talk about just screwing people that you work for or you work with. I mean, I bet if she's over it now, I'm sure she regrets it.
Yeah. Well, Dave Thomas did a great interview at IGN.com. It's like 5-6 pages worth of interview, and it's great. And they asked him about the experience. He said, without a doubt, in my professional life, the worst experience I ever had, because he was locked into a contract and he couldn't get out. And he said, I was the most expensive day player in Hollywood, like, because I had almost nothing to do, and I was getting paid all this money, and the only benefit was he got to work with Tom Poston, and he was responsible for Tom getting the job, actually, because they wanted him to be the love interest, and he said, I'm not kissing Brett Butler. So he just became the platonic buddy. And then they said, well, who do you want as a you're the neighbor or the friend? And he goes, well, what about Tom Poston? And they asked him, and Tom Poston called him up and said, I understand I have you to thank for the job, and they became the best of friends. And at any rate, he said the big problem was she kept writing more of herself in the show, so you never got a break from her, and it just got tiresome. And she fired writers left and right. That alcoholism's a bitch, man. That'll ruin anything.
Yeah. What was the show actually called?
Grace Under Fire.
Okay.
Ironically enough,
I've never seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. And,
okay, so let's see. My list, I've got Growing Pains.
I've never seen it.
Wasn't that the one with Kirk Cameron or whatever?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Leonardo DiCaprio was on that.
Yeah, where the Kirk Cameron character made all kinds of fat jokes about Tracy Gold, who had a bulimia problem in real life. Probably contributed to her problem.
Okay. Yeah. I got Living Single, which I guess was a precursor. People always said that Friends ripped them off, but it was I think it was on either UPN or the WB, and it was was it UPN? Yeah, and there was it was
Fox.
Oh, Fox.
Part of the night that had Martin and New York Undercover.
Right. Wow. So it was an all African American cast. And the story is that Friends just ripped them off. It was like a copy, just with different actors,
all white.
Yeah, all white. Right. So, and let's see. I've got in that kind of Fox, WB, and UPN vein. I remember when this show came out, and I refused to watch it. And thank God it only lasted one season. Homeboys in Outer Space.
Wow.
Yeah,
that was actually a show.
Yes.
Really?
And it was full of stereotypes. They had like a.
Oh, man.
I was just reading about it on Wikipedia. They had like the computer that flew them around was named like Loquacia or something like that. I'm like, come on.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'd never heard of this.
No, I can remember when they were promoting the hell out of it on UPN. I remember I had friends that were like, "Man, you gonna watch that new show?" And I was like, "Hell no."
What time period was this?
This was God. When was this?
That was like the 90s.
Yeah,
like the
it was
mid 90s.
The 90s.
Really?
It was
UPN
right
had
about
they had that show, and they had a show about a British black guy who got into gambling problems in Britain, who ran to the U.S. to get away from the debtors that he owed, but it was set during slavery times.
What?
So
Was
he
that on
comes to
UPN?
America to be like the valet to Abraham Lincoln or some shit like that.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, and it was. I'm trying to think if it was the same era as like Malcolm and Eddie. I think it was before that, actually.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fuckery with UPN.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. The plot centers around two astronauts, Tiberius Ty Walker and Morris Clay, who flew around the universe in a winged car nicknamed the Space Hoopty in the 23rd century. The duo's car, which was a cross between a lowrider and an 18-wheeler, was piloted by a talking female computer called LaQuasia.
Man, this is like... It had to be white people writing this shit too, right?
Oh, and then the NAACP was all over them, so it was like it was over.
Blame them?
Listen to the guest. Wow. Listen to the guest cast. Tempest Bledsoe as herself. Gary Coleman as Snafu. Eric Estrada as Mr. Dork. Anthony Hopkins as President Weitzman.
Weitzman.
Little Richard as the Ebotola. Shannon Tweed as Delia. Burt Ward as Gerbil. I mean, this sounds like TV gold. I don't know how could have failed.
I gotta go look for it now. It sounds so bad it's good.
Yeah,
it was
absolutely.
Created by a black guy, though.
The production's called Sweet Lorraine Productions.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. So the last three are more modern, sort of. I'll go oldest to newest. I never watched an episode of Jersey Shore.
Oh yeah, same.
Teen Mom, never saw an episode of that. I did see the one girl that got some fame. I saw her movie, her other movie where she branched out into some more adult fare.
Snooki?
Parts of it.
Huh?
Snooki?
No, Farrah.
Tan Mom, Farrah Abraham.
Yeah, the Teen Mom girl. Yeah,
Oh,
Farrah
okay.
Abraham. Yeah, and the last one was This Is Us. I was like, there's no way I'm going to watch that shit.
I will tell you guys, I've never seen the Jersey Shore even once, but I have probably watched the GIF of Snooki getting punched probably a million times. Because I saw her in an interview once. I said, "Who the fuck is this?" And someone said, "Did you ever see a video of her getting punched?" And I go, "What?" And it was a New Jersey teacher got fired immediately. And clearly, like, you don't ever hit a woman like that. But it's like the Sam Kinison bit about, I don't condone wife beating, but I understand it.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, it's probably scrubbed from YouTube because it is extremely violent to see. Anyway, yeah. Don't mix booze and stupidity, guys. It's not a good combo. So is that the end of the list?
Yeah, that's all I had.
All right, wonderful. Guys, we are topping out at 3 hours, 12 minutes. It's probably going to be something like 2.5 hours because we started a little late in the fact. But coming up next, first of all, thanks for all you guys for joining us. It's always fun, and we'll try to get more of these popped out on a more regular basis. You can find us at, quite frankly, a Howard Stern podcast, the Facebook group, which doubles as the sister site, the main site for this particular podcast. We've only got one episode. We're going to try to back up some of the old ones possibly. And next one, we're not sure when it'll be, but when it does, you can get at us on Twitter. It's at Fillmore Fingers or at Sammy Therese. And you can find us on YouTube with the Radio Karate channel, which I'll put a link into the Quite Frankly as well. So from all of us, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.